Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to the Friday night ho-ho-ho edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. No, it is not Santa Claus. Don't let the beard fool you. This is for winter warmth, not toys and happiness for children. And this beard brings you the woo. The other one does not. All right, we got a great show tonight. Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott here, talking about UFOs over North Dakota and Minnesota. We're in for a great show tonight. And all of you are here as well, as this is our final show before the Christmas break. We got Laura Lobbs in the gold medal position, Race Fan with a silver, Tim Mothman in his trusted goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Hello, Ann B., Robert Lamothe, Gizmo, Jimmy Gonzalez, Road Flare, and Forrest Louie. Nice to see you all. And there's Lisa C. and Sweet Amy W.C., Kurt M. What is happening? Nice to see you all. Roger Murray, how you doing? Good to see you as we continue on with our roll call tonight. There's Noble Patrick. T-Bone, my man, how you doing? And T-Bone, do me a favor. I tried looking into the Patreon, the Patreon thing, the store thing. I got to talk to you about that, so you got to drop me your number. All right? Millennium, my man. Pam Harris, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Dewey Cheatham and how you doing? Peppa H is back. Peppa H will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Kurt M., Kathy Evans, Destiny Rocks, Jeremy Jones. How y'all doing? David Hayworth, what's happening? David Hayworth will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. There he is, everybody. Wearing number 5 tonight, starting at left defense from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Purple-haired Pixie Lara, thank you for joining us. Hello, Forrest Louie. How you doing, my man? Thank you for that wonderful super chat, my friend. Really appreciate your love of SOR. Susan Lawrence over on Facebook. Thank you for my chapeau. Appreciate that. Kathleen Hughes, Neil Attenberry, Don Philly the Bull, you've been around, haven't been around a while. Good to see you. Over on Twitch, Lil Cam, nice to have you here. Chef Chris, Vanessa, good to see you both. And the Mac Geek, thanks for coming on in. And where are we here? Alien Critter, Nikki in Seattle, Escape from Blue Jersey, nice to hear you or see you all. Jenny White Bear, thanks for coming on in. And who else do we have? Lee the Bee and Brienne, how you doing? Good to have you here. We are about 2 minutes to go here. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight, our final show right before the Christmas break. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. Our guest tonight, going to be talking UFOs over Minnesota and North Dakota. We have Jerred Nelson and Anna Scott here to hang out with us. We are in the midst of roll call, and we are waiting. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Bill WD-40 officially lubing up the chat room over on Spreaker, because you always want to go into a chat room nice and smooth. So thank you, Bill WD-40, your beautifulness, for lubing us up for tonight's show. We do appreciate it. Okay, continuing on here with our roll call tonight. And are we still caught up? Tired of ramen. Been a while? more than a minute, actually. Nice to see you back. And who else is here? We're still waiting. 30 seconds to go. Want to remind everybody that even though you've probably done your Christmas shopping, you can always go to spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag in our store. We got nice stuff there. Put a new t-shirt up today if you want to check it on out. Yep. It's a good one. It's a good one on ufolotics. That's what we're talking about now. Ufolotics. All right, everybody, it's that time of the night where I ask you to throw your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a really cool show of information tonight as we are joined by Jerred Nelson and Anna Scott here looking for UFOs. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton has a great report from Among the Missing. Following that, Courtney Marcassani finally returns home to SOR for the UFO report. Here we go. Jerred Nelson is the co-chapter director of the Northland Chapter of MUFON, assistant state director for Minnesota MUFON and North Dakota MUFON, and a member of MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team. Jerry holds a Bachelor's Degree in Professional Aeronautics and a Master's in Aviation Science. Yeah, this dude is smart. He is a retired military aviator. We're going to find out what he flew. And has 40 years of aviation experience. He's been investigating the UFO phenomenon for 5 years, but has always had an interest in the subject. His partner, Anna, here, holds a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree and has worked in healthcare for almost 30 years. She's a lifelong experiencer of the phenomena and spent almost 30 years investigating both her own experiences and other similar reports. See, this is what makes a good show. We got a pilot. We got an experiencer. We got a guy wearing a white beard and a Santa's hat. This is what makes great radio, everybody. Jerred, Anna, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Merry Christmas to both of you.
Merry Christmas to you, too. Thanks for having us.
Merry Christmas, Dave. Thanks for having us.
Oh, I'm excited. Jerry, I got to know, what'd you fly?
I flew helicopters. How about that? Oh. I know that's not fun. I flew the Apache.
Ooh. Now, I got to ask, what's it like wearing that overinflated helmet where every time you turn your head, you know, that's where you're going? And that's, oh, my gosh, I'm geeked up now.
That's pretty much how it works. You got this little eyepiece that goes over your eyeball, and you look through there, and that's where all your symbology is. Wherever you look, the weapon systems look. It's pretty awesome.
Now, the pilot's in the back seat, the gunner's in the front, correct?
Yes, you can shoot from either seat, though, and you can fly from either seat. But the front seat's set up for shooting, and the back seat's set up for flying.
Oh, how many years did you get to do that fun?
Oh, my gosh. I did that thing for about 17 years.
God bless you. Thank you for your service, man.
Thanks.
Thank you. And very much appreciate that. And Anna, you and I are going to be the experiencers of tonight. I want to know your woo. It's been happening a long time. What's gone on?
Well, for as long as I can remember, I've had just strange experiences in my life. Back when I was a kid, until I was about a teenager. I had all kinds of instances where I would see these creatures in my doorway of my bedroom at night. Lots of crazy stuff there. I would see orbs that were more than orbs. They were what I considered to be vehicles at the time when I was a teenager, and some friends of mine were with me once when we had an encounter with that. Right up to a couple years ago, actually, saw an enormous, basically floating warehouse near Cavalier, North Dakota. So pretty much all my life.
Oh, that's good stuff right there. Because as an experiencer myself, I haven't been one all my life. I finally tuned in at about 12 years ago at age 38. And since then, life has become very interesting. Now, for you, Jer, I want to start off with you here because coming from an aviation background, okay, I mean, you have a very good eye on what is flying in the sky at all times. You have to. You probably have a real interest in everything from little single engine Cessnas to Airbuses to C-17s and C-5s, and everything in between. I mean, what caught your attention about this subject that you love so much?
Oh, it's, honestly, this has just been something that I've always had an interest in. It's probably the reason why I even started, doing the aviation thing, becoming a pilot and everything, so I can kind of get up here and see what's going on. But what got me into it was really just an interest ever since I was really young. I had an experience back in the early 90s when I was going through flight school that was pretty weird. Woke up in the middle of the night, saw some creatures in the dorm room that shouldn't have been there, type of thing. But I mean, really, it's just kind of been a lifelong, and I'm not going to say obsession because, you got so many things that happen to you during your life. You got to concentrate on this, that, and the other thing. But I could say that it's something that's always interested me ever since I was really young. And then, about 5-6 years ago, I had the opportunity to join MUFON and become a field investigator and start doing all that. So, that my path was actually relatively simple. Honestly, just kind of wanted to figure it all out.
Now, explain these creatures that you saw.
Well, they were your typical grays. I only saw one. I saw the shadow of another. I kind of figured there was maybe a third one in there, but I never saw him, And I could have chalked that up to just dreaming, but I'll tell you the whole story maybe later. But anyhow, the next morning when I woke up, my roommate asked me, "Hey, Jerry, where did you get those welts on your back?" I had 3 welts on my back that obviously weren't there the day before. So something happened that night to give me those. I have no idea what. But that was really about it. But the creature I saw was your typical gray.
And you'd never had an experience like that before?
No, never had anything like that before. I can honestly say I got several thousand hours flying, and I have never seen a UFO. The only thing I saw was just that one creature. And just to kind of give you an idea how tall it was, the top of his head was at the doorknob. So Tiny guy, little short guy.
Well, you know what? They can still do the damage. They know how.
They sure can. They had me bamboozled that night.
Oh, and how's your gray aliens, Anna Scott?
Well, I don't really know what those were that I used to see in my doorway as a child. What I saw when I was looking at them, they looked similar to what you would see when you were looking at a picture negative. So they were varying shades of gray, light gray to dark gray. They seemed to be wearing some kind of clothing, some type of uniform, but the clothing was really loose. And what I looked at and what I saw when I was young was what I described to myself as these very spindly looking pirates. And I chose to call them or refer to them as pirates because they had these large black patches on their eyes. And I didn't see them in full detail because, again, it was that distortion similar to what you would see when you're looking at a picture negative, right? But they would frequently be in my doorway to my bedroom. Sometimes I'd blink and one of them would be right in front of my face instantly. And then I would close my eyes and ask them to go away, and it would move back towards the door. I was never frightened by them. I was just really weirded out. I didn't want them to be there. It was weird. It was strange. It was uncomfortable. I just wanted them to go away. But I always had this feeling like they were just there checking on me, observing me, making sure everything was okay. And if I asked them to leave enough, eventually I would open my eyes again and they'd be gone. But they didn't like disappear when I blink or anything like that. And so for a long time, I just decided that those were pirates, right? They were ghosts or they were something else. It wasn't until I was an adult and I started thinking more about it that I really had to kind of come to that conclusion that they probably weren't ghosts. It probably was related to all the other weird stuff that I saw when I was growing up and still occasionally see.
The experiences that both of you have had, we've heard like similar ones on this show before, but they still intrigue the living daylights out of me. They really do, because for every story out there, I feel we get a little bit more closer to try and figuring out why this is going on. And you've been going through this the longest here. Do you feel that this is something that they are friendly about, or that they're meaning to do? What do you think the purpose is?
I wish I knew. I don't feel like I've ever been truly harmed by them. I know some people find them very frightening, and I can understand why they would. It's one of the reasons why I joined the ERT with MUFON, to be that listening ear for folks that were having a really hard time processing some of that. So for me, it's always been kind of a part of my life, so I guess I'm more used to it. I don't know what they want. I wish I knew. I guess that's, some people say that they know exactly what they want. They're here to do this or that or whatever. I never felt like I knew what they actually wanted, but I didn't think that they were out to harm me. And I mean, if they wanted to hurt me, they could easily do so. And I don't feel that they've hurt me at this point. So.
Right. And how about for you, Jer? I mean, you got some aliens there too. I mean, do you feel that your experiences have stopped after that one time, or do you continually be bothered by these little childlike grays?
That is an awesome question. I feel that one particular instance was a fluke, that I was just an innocent bystander. However, I still have problems going to sleep at night sometimes, and not always, just once every 6, 7, 8 years or so, for like about a week, and then it's gone out of my mind. But that one instance that I told you about, and like I said, if you want to know more, I'll tell you more. But it was, I think I was just an innocent bystander. I just happened to wake up and just see what I wasn't supposed to.
So if I get this correct, you were in Army barracks at that point, correct?
Yep.
And you woke up for whatever. Maybe you're tossing and turning. Maybe you had to pee. Maybe you had to, an itch on your back, or whatever the situation may be. You wake up, you see these little gray dudes that probably were there for someone else, but you ended up being, so what you think is you were collateral damage to them seeing you awake, looking at them.
Yes, that's exactly what I think. Because when I woke up, saw the one gray by the door, like I said, his top of his head was at the, the doorknob level, had on a tight fitting suit, unlike Anna where he said it was baggy, this one was skin tight, looked to me like he had a helmet under the suit, because the suit went all the way up. Kind of weird. And I was thinking, well, what do I do? Do I try to get people's attention, or, if I'm sleeping, I'm going to look like a complete idiot. So decided I'll just sit there and just check this thing out. So for the next minute and a half, 2 minutes, all I did was just stare at it, trying to soak it all in, what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing. And the next thing I know, he sees me. He looks over at me, sees me, points to me. He looks like he started talking to somebody else that was in the room. I couldn't hear anything, but that's what it sounded like. And I heard in my voice, or I heard in my head, my own voice that said, "Hey, close your eyes. You'll think you're asleep." And like an idiot, I said, "Hey, that's a really great idea." So I closed my eyes, and the next time I opened up, they were gone, absolutely gone. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I was sleeping, maybe it was a dream. But when I woke up the second time, my body was in the same exact position, looking the same exact direction. I hadn't moved at all. And then, of course, the next morning with my buddy saying I had those welts on my back. So something probably happened. I have no idea what, but honestly, I think I was just an innocent bystander and I wasn't supposed to see that.
Incredible. Jerred, Nelson, and Anna Scott here from MUFON in Minnesota, North Dakota. I love experiences like that. These little gray dudes, did they have you said they were wearing a helmet. When I first knew I was abducted, I got woken up by the children Gray's fingers running through my hair. Well, and I woke up on their table.
That would be a bit much.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Cool. But so I know the type, I know what it feels like in order to go through all of that. You have both turned this into a life passion now, where you're not only searching for your answers for yourself, but answers for other people who've had the ultimate phenomena happen to them as well. As you go through this case by case, Anna, we'll start with you on this one. Are you doing this for the sake of trying to learn more about the phenomena or learn more about the reactions that humanity is having?
Wow, I think both, but for me, it's just, first of all, I have a huge curiosity. I want to understand what that phenomenon is. I want to understand why it affects me. Why me and not my neighbor, for instance, right? Because I don't think I'm very special. So there must be a reason, though, why they would choose to contact me and to be in my life. And I really wish I knew the answer to that. And so that's one of the reasons why I would investigate my own cases, and trying to rule them out, trying to debunk what I was seeing. It actually, one time I was maybe 22. I thought for sure I must have schizophrenia or some sort of mental illness, and went and saw a psychiatrist, and he put me through a bunch of testing, and he said, there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you should go and talk to a therapist to learn how to deal with that. But I never really could figure out what the reason was that I was seeing these things and experiencing these things. Now, what their ultimate purpose is, I have no idea. I would like to think that if we can find some hard scientific evidence, that maybe we could use that to benefit the world somehow. I know that I, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, I really fit the stereotypical experiencer. I grew up as a young child with all of this dread and worry over nuclear war and stuff other kids weren't thinking about. Project in the 6th grade was what would basically happen to the Twin Cities area, because that's where I lived, in the event of a nuclear war. And I had a model and everything showing the different rings of damage, and what 11-year-old does that, right? So I don't know. I've always had a really strong connection with nature and the planet and the environment. So I don't know if they're using us to try and better the world. I would like to think that my experiences and my interests may benefit the world at some point. I don't know how, but you never know. So
yeah, we all hope that. We all hope to get those answers one day. And Jerry, are you still confused by what those answers could lead to? whether they're taking us or not, whether it's all a mind game or whether this is all just a nightmare in between?
That's a good question. I don't know. My belief, honestly, is that we're probably a big giant petri dish, and that we're all just an experiment, And they come down here checking on their experiment like a bunch of lab rats and stuff, Does that hurt my feelings, or does that make me, like depressed and like, oh, now I don't want to do anything? No, I got bills to pay. I got to go to work. It doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want. If I'm an experiment, and I'm going to show you how an experiment works, So that's kind of my take on the big picture of it all. As far as what kind of ramifications is that going to have for everybody in the world, I guess that's for individual people to decide for themselves. But for me, it doesn't bother me in the least. So if they're here, I want to know. There's no reason to hide it anymore.
Oh, I agree. There's no reason to hide it, but there's a lot of people in Washington, D.C. who are sure as hell trying to hide all this.
Oh yeah, that's probably all about money and all about defense contracts and what have you. So there's a whole myriad of other projects that could be going on that you hear about that are not, you don't know if it's true or not, but you hear the stories. Like the space fleet we supposedly have. Well, how are you going to prove that? Until they come out and say, well, yeah, we've been doing that since the 30s or 40s. Well, that's great, but that doesn't do us any good now. Or, actually it could do us a lot of good, but you just wasted 70, 80 years worth of free energy or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's something they do need to come clean with, I think.
Oh, me too. How are you, with 2 minutes to go here, how are you standing on the whole government issue of UFOs? Not this UAP crap, real UFOs. And we lost Anna there. We get her back. Jerred, I'll get you to take that question.
Yep. So the real UFOs, I'm glad that they have finally said that, yes, there is something out there. Could it be our adversaries? Some of it, sure. Could be our adversaries. All of it, absolutely not. I think there's no doubt in my mind that there are extraterrestrials that are visiting this earth that the government absolutely knows everything about, and they're just staying tight-lipped on it. And again, I think that's just all about money, and I really wish that would stop.
How about you, Anna, on the government side of everything? You've been following it and paying attention?
I can barely hear you. My apologies. I'm not sure what's going on.
Just in regards to the government looking into UFOs, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm not certain I heard all of your question. I'm having some issues here. If you could give me just a minute, my apologies.
That's all right. We got 40 seconds to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour here. And Jerry, I got to know, like, for you looking into this UFO stuff, was this just something that all of a sudden became natural? 25-second answer.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just, like I said, an interest all my life. I finally had the opportunity. I was retired from the military. I still got a full-time job, but I've got more time that I can devote to this type of thing. So it was just kind of a natural progression. Like, hey, it's time for me in my life to be able to start doing this thing, and just kind of start going a different path down, and start investigating. Yeah.
Love it. Jerry Nelson, Anna Scott, both here on Spaced Out Radio tonight, talking UFOs over Minnesota and North Dakota as we continue on with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Coming up right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. We've got a great show ahead. Hello, Anna.
Hi. Sorry.
Are you back? How do you hear?
Can you hear us now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. So, Jerry, I got to ask, because I never got to make it as a pilot. up here in Canada. When I graduated, they froze hiring for 4 years.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Now they can't find enough pilots. Oh, if I was younger.
Oh,
But
yeah.
by the time they reopened it, I had pins in my knees, so I was done.
Mm.
But I got to ask, what's the recoil feel like when you're lighting off that machine gun of an Apache?
Oh, it knocks you back. You know, when we first started, we did a lot of hovering stuff, a lot of hover fire and stuff. Towards the end of my career, we realized that was stupid, shooting from one spot. So we started being a little more dynamic about it and doing forward flight so we can maneuver and stuff while we're shooting. But yeah, when you light that 30 off, you feel it. You know it. You can hear it. You can feel it. It's pretty awesome.
And how big are the bullets on that? Are they about 8 inches?
Oh my gosh, the bullet itself is probably 4 or 5 inches long.
Then the casing.
Yeah, and then the casing. So yeah, probably about 5-6 inches long. I thought I had one here, dummy round, but I don't know where it's at right now. So
yeah, old Davey. Then taking a helicopter upside down for the first time had to be a little freaky.
I've never did that.
You never did that?
No, not upside down. I came pretty close one day and I chickened out. Feeling a little froggy, so I started pulling into a split S. I got about halfway through it and chickened out and just did knocked the nose over and just kind of went straight down. So
right.
Yeah.
Did you end up doing any tours overseas?
Oh yeah. I did Bosnia for a little while. I was in Iraq for a little while, so saw a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you for that, man.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Love the Apache.
Yeah, she's a nice bird. That's for sure. I miss flying it because she just had power for days. I mean, you could just, I first started flying it, the instructor pilot be in the back seat, I'd be up front because when you start, you're just a gunner. That's you got to know the weapon systems before you can move to the back. And we'd be out flying. He's like, okay, you see that car below us? Attack it. So we're like, okay, well, I'd come back around and I'd do this and do that. He says, no, there's a car below us, attack us. And he took that thing and flipped it upside down and just horsed it around. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Imagine, though, being outside of an A-10, you're the most feared bird in the sky.
Yeah. I think it can reach out and get you. The gun can reach out, gosh, I don't know, 2.5, 3 miles, something like that. The missiles and the rockets, those reach out 5-6 miles, something like that, right around there. I don't remember the exact parameters anymore. It's been a while, but it's yeah, you can find a target really far out there, shoot a missile at it, and I never even know you were coming.
Yeah, I liked watching before YouTube started being edited. I loved watching those live videos from helicopter cameras and gunships, all that kind of stuff. Love watching that.
Yep.
How many rounds a minute could that fire?
Right around 600-ish.
And
about 10 rounds a second.
And how many rounds were you carrying?
It depends. Depends upon a lot of different things. We started out. Weight is a huge thing. We started out carrying 1,200 rounds, which is an enormous amount of weight. And we swapped that out for an extra fuel tank, and we put less rounds. I think we had about 300 rounds on board. But I mean, those things are grenades that you're shooting, and they're not really bullets; they're actually grenades. So you don't need that many.
Right?
Yeah.
I never knew. Never knew.
Yeah.
One sec here, guys. Big thank you tonight to Pam H, Louie, Amy, and Human Carl for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. And yes, extreme sad news in the broadcast world. I'll get to that in a minute here. We got about 30 seconds here before we're coming back on. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. We got nice clothes, nice designs. Not just your ordinary garage sale hopping type t-shirts, None of that. All right, here we go, everybody. Sit tight. Second half hour, Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Before we continue on tonight, I want to give a shout out and a big heartfelt condolence to the Punnett family. Ian Punnett was a longtime journalist and radio host in the United States, including on Coast to Coast AM. And Ian has been a guest on this show prior years ago before he started teaching journalism at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University. He lost his life today due to health issues, and he is going to be sorely missed by not only us radio community, but his wife Marjorie and two sons as well. So we dedicate this show tonight to Ian Punnett, and hey man, go see the stars. You got all the answers now to all the weird stuff. Thank you, Ian, for your broadcast career. Continuing on here, we have Jerred Nelson and Anna Scott from MUFON in North Dakota and Minnesota. They're looking for UFOs, and they're looking for the stories that are behind them. Why is it occurring? Why are these happenings going on? Let's start off in North Dakota with you, Jerred, where they have an interesting history from nuclear missiles being shut down in Minot a number of years ago to sightings going across not only the border between North Dakota and Manitoba, but right through the states and going deeper into the U.S. I mean, this is a hotbed for transitioning UFOs, it seems like.
Yeah. Definitely, there's a lot of activity going out there. There's a lot of stuff happening in the 70s. There's still a lot of stuff happening these days, too, for sure. I think Anna probably knows a little bit more about North Dakota than I do, but I would have to agree with you on that.
All right. Sorry, Anna, we'll get you in here on North Dakota. I got the states mixed up. I apologize.
That's okay.
Not a problem.
So what's happening up there?
Well, you're definitely right about, back in the 60s and early 70s, there was a lot of UFO activity around the different military sites, particularly the ones that had control over the nuclear weapons. My own personal kind of pet project is up in Cavalier at the Cavalier Air Station. That was part of what was called the safeguard system, or the Mickelson safeguard system. And I have a sinking suspicion that that whole system was either initially set up or restructured to be able to see incoming UFOs, kind of a first warning type thing for the military bases there. That's just purely my speculation based on a lot of research that I've done. Haven't found anything that corroborates that, but considering that now its current mission is to track objects in orbit, it makes sense to me. I've also seen a lot of strange things up there. But you're right, there's a lot of stuff that happens in North Dakota. Unfortunately, we don't at MUFON get a lot of reports from North Dakota. They're very few. I think a lot of that has to do with the culture here in the state. So one of the things that I think happened, particularly in the late 60s and early 70s, is that people did not want to talk about what was being built. There was many different military installations, all kinds of different projects happening in the state. And I think people assumed if they saw something weird, it was probably our military. and that saying anything about it might be kind of anti-American, might, cause some problems. And so I think there was this tendency for people to not talk about it, particularly with outsiders. We're hoping to change that, having MUFON in the States again and, reactivating that chapter. Hopefully we'll start getting some more of those good reports. But yes, there's been a lot of things happening in the state, just not reported to MUFON.
That really surprises me, considering the history of North Dakota. And I always remember Grant Cameron talking about Charlie Red Star up in Carmen, Manitoba, which is just across the border, and how Charlie Red Star took off across into North Dakota as well. I mean, there just seems in that central area to be so much action, and the fact that it's not really being reported, that actually surprises me quite a bit.
It surprises me too. Like I said, Cavalier happens to be one of my pet projects, so to speak. But even when I go there, I have relatives, people that are related to family of mine. They're not my direct relatives, but they won't even really talk about it. They'll mention things between themselves, but they just don't really want to talk about it to outsiders. I hope that changes. It seems from the information, the feedback that I've been getting and Jerred's been getting, that the younger generation is more willing to talk about that and what they've seen. So hopefully that improves. But yes, I agree. It's strange with all the stuff going on up here.
All right, let's switch over to Minnesota. Jerred, fill us in on how the reaction is in Minnesota. Is the attitude different for reporting?
The attitude's a lot different in Minnesota. It's really nice, actually. We get quite a few reports from here. I'm averaging at least one case a month for myself. So the state itself is getting between 10 to 15 cases a month. There's not a whole lot. Well, I say there's not a whole lot going up here, but I mean, let's face it, you get reports from populated areas. So the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, they're going to get a lot of reports because there's a lot of people down there. So we're not going to get a whole lot of reports up here in the north. But the reports we do get up here are usually pretty good. We had a report in Duluth that goes back to the 70s that Ann and I did some stuff with. I got some pictures for that. We can show you that later. There was another one that happened not too far from here where I had fingerprints on a mirror that unfortunately it took a little bit long for them to report it, so it got cleaned up before I got to it. But that was an interesting one. I got pictures for that. There's the Val Johnson case that happened in Warren. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen here, and I've had people come to me and talk to me just off the cuff. Hey, I saw this, and I had a guy come up to me and talk to me about an orange ball. I guess you'd probably call it a sphere or a flying saucer. What he said it was about 5 or 6 feet wide. And it came down and it landed out in the woods someplace. He was someplace he wasn't supposed to be. He was with a friend. They were teenagers or something. So they never reported it. But I mean, this guy was 60 something when he finally told me about it. So I found that rather interesting. There's just all kinds of really weird things that happen up here. So yeah, there's a lot going on in northern Minnesota. So we need field investigators. So if anybody's listening.
Well, in Minnesota, too, you also have to worry about the cryptids that are running around during those times, too, whether it's Bigfoot or whatever it may be. Yeah,
we got a Bigfoot presence not too far from here. I myself haven't done a lot of Bigfoot hunting. In fact, I haven't done any Bigfoot hunting, but I'm a believer. I'm definitely a believer. We have a Bigfoot conference here every year that the local Bigfoot group puts together. That's pretty good, too. So try to go to that when we can.
Jerry, out of your 5.5, 6 years of being with MUFON, there's always a case or two that really sticks with you. I'd love for you to share that case with our audience here.
Okay, sure. Honestly, the biggest case that has stuck with me has been a UFO landing in Duluth. It happened in the early 70s. And the way this one came about was really weird. My wife and I were on vacation going up on the North Shore. And I happened to pick up a magazine, and there was a article in there or an ad in there that said, "Hey, if you've seen anything weird up here on the North Shore, to give this person a call." So, being new to MUFON, being a new field investigator, I wrote him an email, told him what I was. I was a field investigator, and I was interested in this type of stuff. And if he had heard anything weird, I'd be more than happy to help him out. So, not long afterwards, we're talking like maybe a week after I wrote that, he writes me back and says, "Yeah, I got a guy in Duluth. I want you to come up and listen to his story." So, came up there to Duluth to listen to this guy's story. And let me see if I can find this video here. He had videoed these lights in the sky. And it wasn't just a light in the sky, because I'm sorry, lights in the sky, they have no meaning to me. They could be absolutely anything. There's lots of things we can see to see what they were. But a light in the sky, I'm looking at a black screen of light, it could be anything. But this guy, he had lights in the sky, but let me see if I can find it here. It was really interesting because of the lights, there was like 5 or 6 lights, and they all just were kind of like dancing around each other. Here.
Beautiful.
Okay, so let's do this one. All right, let's see if I can do a screen share with this. Set down to present, share screen. Okay, media player. Okay, so can you see this? There's nothing there right now.
So for our radio audience, we're looking at a video of what looks to be lights glowing off a translucent object in the sky. Am I correct, Jerred?
Yes, and you can actually kind of see these lights interacting with each other, kind of morphing around each other. It's difficult to see, obviously, but that's what we're seeing right there. So anyhow, I interviewed this guy about this. We took some readings, where he was, where the lights were. I looked up a few different cases. I found a case similar to it in Texas that honestly looks exactly like this.
Is that a 5-point, almost like a dice?
I see like 2, 4, 6, 8. I see like 9 or 10 different lights there if you look real close at it. It is so hard to see what that thing is actually doing. Yeah, because you see like, well, maybe they're not dancing around. Maybe they're just kind of lighting up, or, well, that was just really weird. So anyhow, that's how it started. Okay, so are we back with the regular screen now?
Yes. Yeah, we're good now.
All right. So I went and interviewed him about this. We talked about it. An interview took maybe a half hour or something because it was real simple, real basic type of thing. And then, just out of the blue, I asked him, I says, that was really weird what happened to you. That not too many people see that. Have you ever had anything else happen to you? And then that's when he started telling me the most amazing story. Him and a friend of his were in a field down on his property near a shack that he had built. And this is, like I said, I think 71 when this happened. And a light started approaching them. And they ran into the shack because they're like, what in the heck is going on? And they're in this shack. This light came in. They don't know if it landed on the ground or not, but they could see the light coming through all the slats of the wood and everything into the shack. And he said it lasted maybe 5-10 minutes, and then it was just abruptly gone. And that was it. And they're like, okay, well, that was weird. That was really, really weird. Well, fast forward a year later, him, his brother, and another friend of his were out in the shack again because they're kids having fun. And they decided they're going to have a sleepover out there. So it was kind of a 2-story shack, I guess. They were sleeping in the upstairs, and there was a trap door that led to the top. His brother was sleeping over the trap door because that's where he was, and then the other 2 were sleeping someplace else up there. And about in the middle of the night, some light comes shining through the window that they had up there, and it said it got so bright that you couldn't see outside. You had no idea what was going on. It was just super bright out there. And they're like, okay, so what the heck's going on? Well, at that point, they heard someone or something enter the shack underneath them. So they heard or whatever, someone coming in to the shack underneath. And they started hearing things just getting thrown around and getting trashed and broken and just everything. I mean, it was really weird. And they're like, what's going on? And the next thing you know, the trap door starts opening, you know? And of course, it didn't open all the way because the one brother was sleeping on it. So it, you know, slammed shut again. So then the other two guys piled on top of them. They don't want whatever's down there. They don't want it coming up, you know? And I guess this trap door went up and down several times. The one guy thought it lasted 5 minutes. Another guy thought it lasted 20 minutes. I mean, who knows? And then it all stopped. And of course, they're scared to death. So they're wide awake now for the rest of the night. So they waited all night long. Finally, when the sun started coming up, they got the courage to go downstairs to see what in the heck was going on. Well, they opened up the trap door. I walked downstairs, and everything was pristine. Nothing had moved. Everything was where it was supposed to be. It was nice and clean, about as clean as a shack could be, you know. So that day, the older brother went and got their bulldozer and bulldozed that thing down. Well, to this day, which is why Ann and I went out there, to this day, there's a 16-foot circle, 50 feet away from the shack, or where the shack was, because it's gone now, to where nothing grows. It's completely dead. And I've got pictures of that too. I say completely dead. It's pretty close to dead. And I got some pictures of that too. So let me try to show you those if I can. Right, share screen. Okay, so this is one here. You can see it's, okay, so maybe some stuff is growing on there, but not a whole lot. I mean, that's 50 plus years of being out in the middle of the woods, and it's just a dead circle. I mean, it is really, really weird. So, all right, so let's stop share. So we went out and we investigated this. We're like, okay, obviously something happened, you know, it's a heck of a story. So we went out, we took soil samples, did a drawing of it, took lots of pictures, sent the soil samples off. They came back. We had control samples, you know, to make sure that, you know, to check everything. Anyhow, the soil samples came back from inside that circle about 8 inches down was a high level of carbonite. And the only way, from my understanding, unless your audience knows different, the only way that I understand that carbonite really is formed is by high heat. So right. I asked the witness if he remembers if that area got scorched. And he was like, it was 50 years ago, man. He bulldozed that thing down. And honestly, he hadn't been back out there until he told me about it. And we went out, and this was in 2020. I think it was 2020. And it happened in 1972. And he hadn't stepped foot out there since it happened. That was the first time he actually went out there, was to show me where it was at. So he has no idea if it was burnt or not. I have to assume it probably was, but I don't know. I wasn't there. So that was that one right there was probably the most significant case that I had, because it was an actual UFO landing. I believe it was an actual UFO landing because something happened. That story is just too crazy to make up. Actually, there was another family member there that had an encounter with some grays as well. Actually, I take that back. She couldn't see what the beings looked like because they were wearing robes with hoods, but they were small in stature, and that was it. I'm not going to get into that, but that was a very interesting part of the whole story. There's a lot going on there, that's for sure.
No kidding. It seems like it's one of those stories that's just not going to have an ending.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, Anna, we got you here. We got 4.5 minutes to go before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Your favorite case over the last number of years?
Well, I think there's two favorite cases, but the one that I keep thinking back to, is one where it wasn't an actual UFO case. It was an experiencer case. And this experiencer was very concerned and somewhat distraught. He had gone in to the doctor. He was having some abdominal issues and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And so they did an MRI and the doctor asked what kind of surgery he had had. And he said, well, I've never had surgery. And the doctor was like, no, wait a second. You clearly have had surgery. And he showed him the images. And in the images, there was scar tissue. And the experiencer really had no recollection. He asked family members, hey, you know, when I was an infant, did I ever have surgery? He had no scars, no nothing to indicate that he had had surgery. And it was really bothering him. He had had other sightings and things. And it led him to believe that maybe he had been abducted and a surgical procedure was performed on him. And so I met with him in person and he showed me his MRI slides. He had them, the images. And, you know, as a nurse, I could look at that and clearly see the scar tissue. It was very obvious in the images. And he showed me his stomach and there was absolutely no sign of any kind of scar. And the scar tissue in his, underneath his skin was quite significant. And there's no way he could have scar tissue like that in that amount without having obvious scars on his skin. And that's one of those cases where oftentimes we don't have physical evidence. We don't have anything that really shows that something happened or that something at least was very unusual. And that one really sticks in my mind because he had evidence to show, hey, something happened to me. And he didn't know what it was. So that one will probably stick with me forever because of how interesting it was.
I can totally understand why you would. Were there any other ramifications of that case that really made you scratch your head?
So he had a lot of similar characteristics to, you know, experiencers. We all have kind of a certain background and history that seems to be very similar, like I spoke about earlier. You know, interest in nuclear weapons, an interest in the earth, an interest in reducing war and taking care of what we have, and kind of a, you know, we live in peace type thing. He had all of those characteristics. And I have to wonder if they're coming to see us, if they're taking us, if they're doing anything to us, there must be a purpose to that, right? So it would be great to know what that purpose was. He doesn't know what happened to him. He just has that evidence of scarring. So I'd love to know, you know.
How much more curious does it make you in dealing with a case like that?
Much more curious. It kind of feeds the monster, so to speak, but the monster is never satisfied. And the monster is really that curiosity that I really want to know what this is. There has to be a reasonable scientific explanation as to what it is, whether it's actual physical ETs from another planet, whether it's interdimensional beings, whether it's something that's altering our consciousness to the point where we perceive this happening. There has to be some reason for it. There's so many people that have similar stories and experiences, and there's really a lot of evidence out there. It's just hard to get a hold of. So there has to be something that we can clinically measure or observe.
Right. Anna, Scott, Jerred, Nelson. We got an hour to go yet. That was a fast first hour of Spaced Out Radio. We are going to continue right after this on the Mighty SOR with UFO stories. Where are these things coming from? We'll find out hopefully right after this. Stay tuned. That was a fast first hour, man.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
So much fun. So
It
much fun.
was.
Okay,
My battery is running low here, so I need to plug in.
Yes,
Okay,
you
I'm
do.
going to send you both into the background. Do not hang up. I'm just going to go for a quick break here, guys. We got about 5 minutes here. All right. I am back. Let's get Jerred and Anna back in. Oh my goodness.
All right. Sure. Hey.
There we go.
Love that hat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My son this morning, he runs up to me. My son is 10, and he runs up to me and he's like, "Dad, I'm wearing my Santa hat to school, so you got to wear your Santa hat to work." So I've worked all day today for him.
Awesome.
Yeah. I want to say a big thank you to T-Bone, Human Carl, Amy, Louie, and Pam H for the super chats. Very much appreciated. To anybody who's new here, please hit subscribe and ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. And of course, don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. We got stuff that you're actually going to want to wear out in public and be happy to wear about. So go check it on out today. And let's have some fun here in the next hour. If you have any questions, put them in capital letters. If you're in the chat room, I will get them to our amazing guest tonight. Here we go, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Merry Christmas to you all as we are heading into the holiday season. Thank you for being here with us. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. And we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Reindeer. Reindeer is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From North Dakota and Minnesota MUFON, Anna Scott and Jerred Nelson are with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Very much appreciate you guys taking the time during this holiday season.
Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Anna, I want to start with you on this one. In the number of cases that you have covered in your area, are there any types of trends that you have noticed regarding the sightings that people are having? Are they seeing the same type of craft? Are they having introductions with the same type of beings? Tell me about the trends.
Well, most of our cases, we can figure out what it is. They're well-intentioned reports, but they have terrestrial human-made reasons for that. Usually they're airplanes, celestial bodies. We get a lot of Starlink and things like that. There definitely have been some flaps. There was in northwestern Minnesota, there was a whole series of like delta-shaped UFOs that were spotted, not at the same time, different time points, but there was a lot of different people seeing that type of object. A lot of spheres, definitely a lot of spheres. The one thing that really sticks out to me that is very common is these very large orange orb type things. They're not usually small. They're usually very large, at least the size of a car, or 6 to 8 feet in width. They don't have the obvious appearance of like a Chinese lantern. That's certainly something that can cause kind of an orange glowing orb type object in the sky, but they don't have those characteristics of the flickering light from the candle or the sway of the wind. Oftentimes, these large orange orbs are actually going into the wind rather than being carried by it. I've actually seen those myself. My ex-husband was with me on that occasion, and so both of us saw it. Don't have an explanation for that. So a lot of times when I get reports that are similar to that, I can really relate to the person that's reporting it just because I've seen something similar. I've had quite a few of those cases. I know Jerred has had some. He just talked about one of them that's where it actually touched the ground. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know. I don't know much about it. And the reason is because in these reports, people aren't explaining that they saw something before or after, or they experienced something else during it. They're not seeing it land. They're not seeing anything come out of it. Sometimes there's an apparent size change, but otherwise they're not giving us any information that that really allows us to investigate something. So it's again a light in the sky that we can't find a reason for.
Are most of those sightings happening at night, or are they happening during the day?
Most of them are at night. A lot of them are around dusk, which of course brings up the possibility of something, reflecting sunlight off the setting sun. That certainly could be the reason for some of them. Some of them are during the day, so there just really isn't an explanation for it. But most of them are seen at night. I think the biggest reason for that is when you notice something large and orange and circular glowing in the sky, it's going to get your attention, and you're more likely to see it if it's nighttime.
Right. And I always wonder about the shapes of these things. What type of shape are people saying? Are they looking like airplanes? Because a lot of times at night, people will misconstrue a satellite, or they're not familiar with the lights on an airplane, the safety lights. I mean, how is it easy to really tell it apart?
Well, planes have a specific lighting configuration, and usually drones do as well. There are certainly some exceptions to that. Not everybody has lights on their drone, navigation lights and that on their drone. But usually you can tell from the size. We have lots of apps like Flight Radar 24 that we use to see if there was air traffic in that area. There's a lot of different tools that we have to help us use that or figure out what that was.
Jerred, I want to go on just something that Anna just said with you for a second here. How important is it to have some of these newer technologies like flight radar apps, like Flight 24, in order to try and track down what is in the sky?
Oh, they are absolutely invaluable, without a doubt. I've had several cases where they'll take a picture of it and it's a light in the sky, or it looks like a cigar, and this one might be bright white and this one might be orange, and without having the ability to see where the air traffic is, you could very easily have mistaken that for an unknown. We had one in Fargo recently that was orange, and they thought it was maybe 1,000 feet off the ground, and that was, real close or whatever. But looking into it, it was actually an aircraft that was up at 30,000 feet. It was orange because the sun was setting, and when the sun sets, everything has kind of an orange glow to it. So a mistaken identity there. I had another one in the middle of the day. Someone was taking a picture up in the sky and caught a white cigar looking thing, and no wings, no nothing like that. Well, it was actually a smaller jet, passenger jet that was up at 20,000 feet. That just because the way the sun is reflecting off it, you couldn't see all of it. So without Flight Radar 24, without what's the other one? Magnums, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Going down the cities. Okay, without that one, without these other radar, the ability to look at the radar, you could very easily say, well, that's an unknown, because you just plain don't know. You can't rule it out. But they're absolutely invaluable for being able to narrow it down. And a lot of my cases, I get a case in, I'll take a look at it, see where they are, see the time of day, the direction that they're looking. I'll get on flight radar 24, say, yep, flight 4753 out of Bemidji headed to Minot or something, you know. So it's I'm very glad to have those in our arsenal now, for sure.
Now, for both of you, are there a lot of military bases in those areas where you are having, or people are having, these encounters?
There are some. There's a base, a guard base in Duluth, that is fairly active. When that sighting happened back in the early 70s, there was actually a missile site on not that far from where that sighting had happened. But that's not there anymore. There's a lot of military operational areas, which is just airspace for the F-16s or whomever to go out and fly around and practice dogfighting or whatever it is that they practice up in the air. So there's a lot of military traffic out there, but they're kind of confined to certain areas, and without the flight radar or without the other knowledge that I happen to have, that you really wouldn't know that.
Right. You know, because a lot of times, a lot of these mysterious things seem to happen around areas where there are a lot of military bases in close proximity.
Right. Well, there was wasn't Anna, I think you were talking about a case back in the 80s or 90s about a triangle craft that was seen flying over North Dakota, headed from the Grand Forks area going towards the Bismarck area or Minot area. Well, during that time, the F-117 was a thing, and they very easily could have seen that. But yeah, there's not a lot of military bases up in this area, but let's face it, there's military bases all over the place, you know. So, but as far as I think what you're getting at is a concentration of UFOs near those military bases. I'm not seeing that, because a lot of the bases in my area are just either aviation or ground. You know, they got nothing to do with like in North Dakota with all the missiles, and Montana with all the missiles and everything else. I don't really see that in my area.
Yeah, and in my area, it's just the opposite. There's all kinds of military activity. We have Grand Forks Air Force Base. We've got Minot Air Force Base. There's one in South Dakota. There's a lot of back and forth between those bases with different aircraft. And then here in the Fargo area, they do have a training center for the Predator drones. And in fact, speaking of that, just recently, I saw a very unusual looking Predator drone. It was a Reaper, and I was fairly certain it was a drone. It certainly didn't look like it was an ET craft, but the reason why it interested me is that it had all of this strange equipment on it. It looked very odd, and I'd never seen that before. It turned in a way that most aircraft really don't, and that's what caught my attention. And I had no idea what exactly it was, other than it's probably one of the drones. Unfortunately, I actually called Jerred and said, hey, I don't know what this is that I'm seeing. And so he was able to go on flight radar 24 as I was driving, and it didn't have a transponder. It was not showing that it was there. And the only reason why I knew for sure what it was is that it was going towards the landing strip that they use. And by the time I drove over there, another one was landing. This one didn't have the equipment. That one had a transponder though. And I could just off in the distance, I could see something entering one of the what do you call them? Where the aircraft go in, the hangar.
Hangars.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, if I wasn't really attuned to what's happening in the sky, and particularly if I saw that at night, that would look very strange. I probably would put in a UFO report. Just the configuration of the equipment, it was like extremely long bars going all the way down the craft. What that was for, I have no idea. I'm assuming some kind of surveillance or something. I mean, the drones do all kinds of different things, but there's a lot of reports that we get that are probably military. We just don't have a way to verify that. Unfortunately, they don't like to tell everybody exactly what they have at the different bases or any experimental craft that they might be working with.
Gotta love the toys that the government doesn't tell us about, right?
Exactly. Yes.
What about alien contact? Are a lot of people in either of your areas reporting ET abductions or contact, Jerred?
Not so much in my area. Being on the experiencer resource team, we do get reports, but we're getting reports all over the U.S., not necessarily in our area. Trying to remember some of the last ERT cases I have, and I can't think of them off the top of my head, but haven't had too many of those cases lately for whatever reason. I'm not even sure why.
Okay, take us back to one that you have dealt with regarding ET abduction or contact. What happened there?
Well, this was really strange. This person had woken up in the middle of the night and had actually seen a portal open up in this person's room, and it's ET stepping in and out of it for whatever reason, not jumping back and forth, obviously, but we came in and, this person was kind of in and out of it, but that was something that was really weird. There was another one that they said when they looked out the window, they woke up in the middle of the night for whatever, they saw this thing, craft or whatever outside. They went to the window to take a look what was going on, saw these ETs walking across the yard, got to the house, they started walking up the side of the house, like horizontally up the side of the house. Weird, right? And then got up and just kind of went through the window and just took this person out to the craft, and that's the last this person remembers of that either. So a couple of really weird ones that I've had. I say weird, I mean weird to everybody else is kind of normal to once you do a few of them, it's all kind of normal,
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. How about alien abductions or contact in your area, Anna?
Well, there certainly have been cases. I haven't had a lot in this area, only I think because I'm rather new to this area. So I used to live in Fargo a long time ago, but I've been living in the Twin Cities for about 20 years, and then up in the outing area of Minnesota, not far away from Jerred. So most of my cases were in Minnesota, but there are some notable cases in North Dakota, one of which was about 100 miles west of me, in between Jamestown and Bismarck. And I believe this happened back in 2006. And what it was a teenager went out and saw beings doing something to their pigs. So the teenager lived on a farm, and something was going on with his pigs, and there were aliens there. And my understanding is that they were tall grays and the typical gray aliens. I could be wrong on that. This is just some of the research that I've done and some things that I've heard about. But apparently they were either trying to abduct the pigs or trying to do some kind of experiment on them. I know that at least one of the pigs was seriously harmed. I think it was killed. And it actually made the paper here in Fargo. One of the interesting things is around that same time period, my sister and her family lived not too far from there. And my niece had drawn a picture of what she described as the funny men. And the funny men were looking at her from outside, like in her window. And my sister didn't think much about it until she heard about that incident with the farm, not that far. It was maybe, I think, 20 miles from them, if that. And so you have to wonder if there wasn't quite a bit of ET activity in that area during that time period.
No kidding. No kidding. The beings that are being seen in either state, prototypical grays, taller, short ones, or are we seeing other types of beings as well, Anna?
Well, I mean, definitely the grays. That's kind of a standard. Some people report tall grays. Certainly, some people report Nordics as well. And I don't know if that's because there's so many Nordic people here that that's in their mind. I'm not really sure. Or maybe there's some connection between the Nordics and the Nordic people of Scandinavia. I don't know. Definitely some people talk about reptilians. So we've had in the ERT, we've had quite a few that said that they've had contact with the reptilians. In my experience, those folks tend to have more difficult experiences when it's with reptilians versus the grays. That's not always true, but I can only think of one or two cases where people had relatively friendly or calm experiences with a reptilian type creature.
Damn reptilians, they'll get you every time. Ain't that right, Jer?
Yep,
Can't
that's it.
trust them reptilians. Ask you, they'll hit you up for gas money for their spaceship and never ever return it.
That's
Rude.
it. They never do.
No Venmos, no PayPals, no buy me a coffee. Just, hey, give us the gas money. We're out of here. Terrible people, those reptilians. We got about 2.5 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour here. And for you, when you're looking into somebody who has had an abduction case, how does the investigation change?
Well, so for the ERT, there really isn't an investigation. And I should mention the ERT stands for the Experiencer Resource Team. And what we do, we're a part of MUFON, and we're all field investigators. And we have a desire to help people that are having some difficulty with the things that they're experiencing. So, gosh, I don't know if I could do that in a minute or less.
Well, try your best. 90 seconds.
Well, what specifically do you want to know in 90 seconds?
Well, that's going to take another 30 seconds to lead us to a whole minute here. So that question's now shot.
All right. Well, the basic difference between a regular investigation and an ERT type of case is we don't investigate ERT cases. We're there for the experiencer, listen, a good listening ear. We got resources, hence the name, for them, whether they want hypnotherapy or support groups we have available for them, or just for them just to be able to, a lot of them are just happy just telling the story, just getting it out, being able to talk to somebody that's not going to think they're nuts,
Right.
And that right there, I've found that right there has been most of my ERT cases. Has just been, this happened to me, the whole gambit, telling me everything about it, and they're like, I just feel so much better just being able just to say it. I don't need a support group. I don't need hypnotherapy. Just being able to say it and have somebody acknowledge that I'm not insane was all they needed. So that's a big difference. There's no investigation. We're just there to help. Whereas the other reports, well, okay, we're going to investigate that and find out what it is. But in the ERT case, it's just, I'm just listening and I'm here for you to help you.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk about the ERT team when we get back, because I think a lot of people don't really have a full understanding or comprehension of what the ERT team does for MUFON. So let's do that. Anna Scott, Jerred Nelson here on Spaced Out Radio. We have them until the top of the hour here on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. We'll be right back. All right, we're clear.
All right, awesome.
You did it better than me, Jerred. I would have. I couldn't figure out a way in my mind to condense that down to like 60 seconds. So.
Drawing a blank for you.
I thought you did well, Jerred. I thought you did.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, that's the basic difference. So it's like you're gonna ask me about my ERT. When you asked me about my ERT cases, I drew a complete blank. It's like I didn't really prepare those because I see the ERT cases. I'm okay. I'm not really supposed to talk about those, because that's a confidential type thing. When somebody calls you and we talk about that, that's confidential. So I didn't really do any prep work on that. So you kind of caught me.
I'm gonna get you going here.
It's all good.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the ERT. The beginning kind of, huh?
You're all over that. That's your baby.
Well, yeah. I didn't know how to condense my baby into a tiny little baby.
Make it happen.
I'm glad my phone is actually working for this. I don't know why my computer didn't. I've got a fabulous setup on my computer. I think I just switched off a microphone switch someplace in the background, and I can't seem to find that. Because I haven't had any problems. It's brand new, and it was really expensive.
Sorry, I'm just going through the chat room and making sure all our audio is doing good here.
Oh yeah, no, you do your stuff, man.
All ready for Christmas?
Yes. We're not really doing anything. We're just kind of hanging out at the house. So just my wife and I will be kind of nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. I hit the road in the morning to my parents' house.
Yeah. Hopefully that's not too far.
Maybe Bigfoot will visit you, Jerred.
Yeah.
No, they live in the city. So it's just my dad now. This was our first Christmas without my mother. So
sorry to hear that.
We lost her in June. So it's going to be a little bit weird, but got to be there for Dad.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to see my mom tomorrow. My dad's gone now. This is our second Christmas without him, and she's in a nursing home, so it's kind of tough for her. But
I hear you. So got to be there for dear old Dad, and hopefully next year he'll be moved up here where I am, so that way nice. I don't have to worry about that anymore. That way, get him out of the city.
That's important.
City, come to the country, Pop. Yeah. Come find them aliens and ghosts and Bigfoot up here.
At least Bigfoot.
Well, I think I had Bigfoot at the cabin when I was living at the cabin. My dad's house, we call it the cabin. But like I was telling Jerred, my sister and I, growing up, we spent a lot of time there, and we'd hear wood knocks all the time. And I set up an experiment, and some unusual stuff happened with that experiment. I still don't know what happened there, but I'd like to know. I even I took a picture of it, what looked like a Bigfoot print in the snow.
Oh, wow.
It was almost twice the size of my foot. I don't know what caused that. Don't know, but.
Okay, guys, we got just under a minute to go here. And I want to say thank you to Amy, to Louie, to Pam H, Human Carl, and T-Bone for the great super chats. Very much appreciate your love and support of SOR. If you're new here, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell, because we're here 7 days a week. And do a little shopping at spacedoutradio.com. You'll like our clothes. We do not have ugly swag. you know, not stuff that you're going to want to wear, you know, on your best painting occasions, when you're painting the house or mowing the lawn or changing the oil in the car. No, that's not our stuff to wear. That's other teams to wear, other shows to wear. We got nice swag. spacedoutradio.com. Make sure you go check it on out. And here we go. Here we go, the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. We have Jerred Nelson and Anna Scott up here for the next little bit as we got until the top of the hour talking some UFOs, alien abductions, and MUFON. And one of the things that Jerred is involved with is the ERT team for MUFON. Jerred, explain to our audience what that is.
ERT stands for Experiencer Resource Team. Basically, we're a part of MUFON that if you go to MUFON.com, you can either report a UFO sighting or you can report that you've had some type of experience seeing something or interacted with something. There's a questionnaire on there that you can fill out. Once you fill that out, it gets sent to our team lead. Team lead sends it out to one of us. We get a hold of you and we just talk to you and see what was going on. And we're here to offer whatever help you might need. Some people have no problem dealing with it. You know, they think it's really neat. And there's a lot of people that, well, it kind of rocks them and they have a hard time with it. So we're there for them. We're there to help.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Now, the ERT team, if I get it correctly, is an emergency response team in case, let's say, in Indiana, a UFO landed and is just sitting there, or people getting close encounters with extraterrestrials, like extremely close.
Not really.
No? Okay.
The close-up part, yes. ERT, Experiencer Resource Team. Emergency response, that would be something else. We have a team called the STAR Team, which I don't remember what that stands for, but they would be the ones that would...
that's where I got it confused. I apologize.
No, that's team. Okay. They're the ones that would react to that first, and they would go there and be on the scene as soon as they could.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So as part of the resource team, then, since I absolutely butchered what it is, explain to us what the purpose of it is.
Well, you know what? I'm going to let Anna take this because she's actually on the executive committee of our Experiencer Resource Team, and I think she's best qualified to answer these questions.
Sure. So with MUFON, most people know, if they're familiar with MUFON, that we investigate cases. And when we do an investigation, we are looking to see if we can figure out, did they see something man-made or terrestrial or a natural phenomenon that we're familiar with? So it isn't debunking, of course, but it's really trying to rule out everything that we can attribute to a known cause. And so oftentimes with a regular case, if we find that amazing light that somebody saw in the sky was actually a plane, people aren't really happy with us, right? They really want it to be something special, and I can completely relate to that. So what happens when somebody has an experience or sees something that we can't explain and they're traumatized by it? So the ERT was actually started by Kathleen Martin back around 2010, maybe. I could be wrong on the year, something like that. And the reason she started that was she felt that there was a need to help these folks that not only maybe had a sighting, because sometimes they do, but they've had an encounter. And that isn't really something we can investigate. So if somebody says, geez, I woke up in the middle of the night and there was an ET there, prodding me with needles or something, there isn't anything for us to investigate usually, unless they left some kind of physical evidence or something like that. But those folks, a lot of them really were traumatized. They had nightmares about it. They were afraid to sleep in the dark. They had all kinds of issues. And Kathleen felt it just wasn't right to just say, look, we can't, there's nothing to investigate, goodbye, right? So she really wanted to develop something where we can actually help those folks. So she started the ERT, the Experiencer Resource Team. It used to be the Experiencer Research Team. That name got changed to Resource, just for a little clarity there. So what we do with the ERT is we are really just that listening ear, and we don't pass judgment on what they're telling us. We don't investigate per se, but we do offer advice on how to learn more about that particular type of experience, and sometimes that's referring them to a book or whatnot. We also have a list of vetted professionals. Some of them, we have psychiatrists, psychologists, we have clinical licensed therapists, we have certified hypnotherapists, we have a whole range of things. We also have support groups. And one of my roles on the executive committee is to vet those professionals and make sure that they are indeed licensed, that they're insured, that they meet the credentials of whatever's required for their state or country. And although MUFON doesn't cover any of the costs, we can at least refer our experiencers to someone that we've vetted and we know that they're valid and they should be reasonably safe. I mean, you can never be 100% sure. And that they have experience with experiencers, people who have had problems, issues, experiences with this phenomenon. And you can call up a therapist and get a therapist, but they may not know anything about the phenomenon. These people actually know something about it. And it really is just a resource for them. So we talk to them, sometimes we meet in person, and then if it's appropriate, we will refer them to one of those professionals or a support group.
That is amazing. That's a lot of work to do. A lot of
sometimes.
How do you balance that with being a full-time field investigator and having to take those calls in the middle of nowhere?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes it's difficult. When we have a case where we have a sighting and an experiencer at the same time, and we find evidence to show that their sighting wasn't that spectacular, it was a plane, or it was, the International Space Station or whatnot, inevitably that's going to have an impact on how we approach them as an experiencer. Now, just because what they saw in the sky didn't match with the entity or the feeling of abduction or missing time or whatever, just because those two don't match doesn't mean that experiencer didn't actually see something or experience something unusual. I think that's something that's really important to note. A lot of times people will assume that a flash that they saw out the window or a light in the sky right before was an actual craft of some sort, when it may not have had anything to do with it.
Powerful. Very, very powerful in regards to the way you put that, because I think it comforts people in order to know what's going on from the inside, that you guys aren't jamming them for information, or, there's way too much of that in this field. When the ERT comes into play, and you mentioned, Jerry, that there is a different team, like a STAR team, I believe it's called, that goes and immediately hits up hotspots. How do you guys combine your work, if even that you do, in order to try and perfect the investigation?
Well, combine your work. How? I mean, I'm not part of the STAR team. That's reserved for just a few people.
I
know a
Anna,
couple, but
okay. If Anna, you're on the STAR team because you're a state director. So again, this one goes to you.
So the STAR team is currently being revamped within MUFON, and we used to have a lot of members of the STAR team, but what they found was not all of those members could deploy immediately to a location. So they've removed most of those folks, and now state directors by default are a STAR team member. And really, you do need to have a fair amount of experience investigating cases, have a pretty solid science background, and really understand and know what you need to do at a site. Some of that comes with experience working cases, but most of that, I think, looking at the people that actually deploy to something like that, most of them have a pretty hard science background in some area.
Interesting. Being a part of an ERT team, have you ever seen something unbelievable, whether it's chasing something down in a forest or a farmer's field?
Well, I've seen a lot of strange things that I have no way to even describe them, but that isn't necessarily related to being on the ERT. Usually with the ERT, we're just talking to somebody on the phone. Occasionally, like the case that I mentioned earlier, we'll meet them in person if it's necessary. Sometimes people have wounds or bruising that we want to take a look at. We're very careful not to touch people, and certainly, they're not going to show us anything that's in a private area or inappropriate. I think one of the biggest things to mention about the ERT, and I haven't done that, is that we really protect our experiencers. So
Right.
unlike a regular case where if you go on MUFON.com, you can get a little information about it, we don't give out any information about our experiences. We fiercely protect their anonymity. We feel it's very important to do that, which is one of the reasons why you'll hear people talking about, well, I can't really talk about that because it's an experiencer case. With the gentleman that I mentioned earlier, of course, I'm not going to mention his name. He didn't have an issue with me talking about it. I just choose not to identify him.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you whatsoever. There does have to be a little bit of secrecy that stays involved for privacy and protection. Jerred, for you, as you kind of build on your own caseload and your own workload regarding UFOs, I'm very curious about one of the subjects I am is black triangles. Okay, I had David Marler, the famous author and real gentleman's man here looking into these black triangle phenomena over the last number of years. Do you get a lot of black triangle sightings or boomerang sightings in your area?
Not a whole lot. We've gotten a few historical sightings that involved that type of craft. By historical, I'm talking 70s,
Okay.
80s. One was over Duluth. It was, according to the witnesses, and the witnesses were, well, one was a professor and one was a police officer. And they said it was probably a couple of miles wide. And it just kind of floated over Duluth, which is really weird. But other than that, I haven't had a whole lot of triangles. I don't know what went on there, but haven't had a whole lot of triangle type of reports up here.
Wow, we have this area just southeast of Vancouver called the Lower Mainland, and then it gets into the Fraser Valley. In that Fraser Valley, there is a triangle where right in the middle is the Fraser River, and there are so many black triangles seen in this area. It's unbelievable. I saw two of them within a couple weeks of each other.
No kidding.
Yeah.
North Dakota has quite a few too.
Oh, really?
There's a fairly high percentage of cases that are black triangles. And of course, Jerred would be the better person to talk about specifics, but I've always suspected that that has something to do with the military bases in North Dakota and probably, you know, the fighter jets or other type of aircraft going between those bases.
Yeah, that definitely could be. I mean, when I get a case, my immediate thought process is it was just an airplane, and I'll do whatever I can to, I don't want to say debunk, but to try to prove that it was an airplane. But if I can't prove it was an airplane, then it was definitely an unknown. But triangular shaped aircraft, absolutely. I mean, you got the 117, you got the B-2. I mean, you have lots of military aircraft that are shaped like that. So just something to think about.
I love it. Do a lot of your clients have missing time?
Some, yeah, absolutely.
So what happens there, Jerred?
Who knows? That time just kind of goes away. It's just obviously something's going on there. Yeah, who knows?
Well, yeah, and I can relate to them. I mean, I had an experience where I had missing time. It's very unusual, and it bothers you on a level that it's hard to explain because you don't feel like you have any control. But I had missing time out in New Mexico, and I went to my Google Maps and took a look at where it said I was, and it didn't know where I was either. And I was driving along a road, and I thought I had plenty of time to get to my destination, and all of a sudden it was dark, and I didn't feel well. I felt groggy, like I was coming out of anesthesia is probably the closest thing I've experienced to that. And I had to pull over, and I was confused. I didn't understand why it was dark all of a sudden.
Right.
And it was interesting that my Google Maps didn't know where I was during that time either. I just had a gray line, and there was cell towers. I looked there. I shouldn't have had an issue with connection. So I don't know what happened there, but I like to think that those experiences that I've had really help me relate to other people and what they've experienced.
What are most people experiencing?
Most people, so I'm not certain how specific that question is. And I guess what I mean by that is most people are seeing lights in the sky. So if you're talking about what are most of our reports, they're lights in the sky. So our experiencers, it's kind of a whole range, but usually they feel they're having feelings of either missing time or seeing beings or being in a kind of a sterile looking place and having things done to them.
All right, let's get to some audience questions here. Let's start off with 7 systems. And any UFO reports around Drayton?
Yes, actually. I can't say that from memory I can recall specifics on them, but yes. Once MUFON is done doing some things behind the scenes, there should be more information on MUFON.com. And you should be able to look up some of those sightings. I know that New Fork also has some reports in that area as well.
Nice. Love me some MUFON. Love me some MUFON. All right, I'm just going to get to another question here. And this goes to Simon here. Do most of the clients feel better or worse from their experience, in your opinion, Jerry?
Surprisingly, there's a question: if you are having an experience, you want it to stop, and a majority of folks don't want them to stop. So feel better, honestly. I mean, obviously, there's some that are going to be just really bad, and people don't want to remember any of it. But a majority of people want to continue having the experience.
All right. So as we move forward here with about 4 minutes to go on the show here with you guys tonight, where do you move forward for 2024? Where do you go towards, trying to stay the path of what MUFON goes? Do you expect a busier year because of the stories becoming more public in ufology?
I'm definitely hoping for a busier year, and not just for all the stories, but for hopefully some form of, we're not going to get full disclosure. That's not going to happen, but at least disclosure to the point where ETs are real, but we don't know that much about them. I would be just happy with
Right.
that,
Do we want ETs, Anna? Do we want it to be alien?
Well, that's a loaded question. I don't know. I think that's an individual choice and thought. For myself, it explains a lot. If it's not alien, I think I would be pretty angry if it was our government doing all of this. And I hope that coming in 2024 that Jerred and I's work to start this new chapter, it's a combination chapter actually of North Dakota and northern Minnesota, and we've termed it Northland MUFON. I'm hoping that by having a presence in an area that really hasn't had any kind of investigative presence in many, many years, I'm hoping that we get some good reports and more reports, especially in North Dakota.
That'd be cool. Except keep it away from the nuclear missiles, right?
Yes, luckily a lot of those have been dismantled. They're still out in the western part of the state, but in the eastern part of the state where I'm at, they were all removed and imploded, supposedly, about 20 years ago.
Allegedly, yes. Here's my big thing with the reports. I think a lot of people in the past had a lot of reservations for, using MUFON because there was some questionable leadership in the past. But right now, I think MUFON, and I'm somebody who has changed my tune on this. I think MUFON has really changed their ways in trying to really tighten things up and bring those investigations and doing it back for the people and for the right reasons for that. Do you guys notice that change as well?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
It seems like they've really kind of tightened it. I know there was a time when Bigelow was getting a whole bunch of info from us. There's some other information that was being given out that they weren't supposed to be going out, but my understanding now is that it's tight. It's real tight. The info is not getting out to where it's not supposed to go, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and I agree. Do me a favor, Anna, as we got about a minute to go. Then Jerred will do the same thing with you here. Tell everybody where they can report the cases in North Dakota to you and how they can get a hold of you.
So the easiest thing to do, and what we always direct people to do, if they want to put in a report, is go to MUFON.com, just the International MUFON site. And it's very clear on there where you go to file a report. So if it's in northern Minnesota or North Dakota, that report should go to either Jerred or I. And so we will take care of it at that point. So if they want to get a hold of us, definitely visit our website, www.northland.com, northlandmufon.com. My email is pretty easy, mufonanna, 2 N's, @gmail. And Jerred can give his information.
Yeah, it's the same thing. The main site for the report, that will come straight to us, and northlandmufon.com. Please check it out. And MN MUFON Jerred at Yahoo.
Beautiful.
Get straight to me. Yep.
Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Been an absolute pleasure. Merry Christmas to both of you. And what a great night of UFOs. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Following that up, Courtney Marcassani will join us for the UFO Report. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio, continuing right after this. Great job, guys.
Awesome.
Great job tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Now, if I can get my eyes to work, my eyes are killing me right now. I'm going to get my eye drops right now because I cannot see right now. Whew. But Merry Christmas to both of you. Thank you.
Yep,
Merry Christmas to you as well.
You guys are brilliant. Take care.
Yep, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. I will be right back, guys. Going to get my eye drops. Hold on a second here. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, my eyes are just like burning right now. There, now I can almost see. All right. Courtney's in the hot seat right now. I'm back. Thank you to our super chatters, T-Bone, Human Carl, Amy, Louie, and Pam H. Appreciate the love, everybody. Oh, and la 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 la. Right. Thank you, dear. Hope you and Science Bob have just a wonderful, beautiful Christmas together. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag. Hi, Looney. How you doing? It's me, Looney, from Canada. Yes, I know. Looney from Canada. It's $1. Plant watering citizen, how are you?
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Reindeer. Reindeer is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Is that time of the night where we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Now, bison are not just America's largest land mammal. They're also an integral part of American history, embodying the strong and resilient characteristics of the American people. That is why they were declared our national mammal in 2016. At one point, bison numbered 30 million and were found all over the United States, as well as in Canada and Mexico. However, they were hunted to near extinction, leaving only a few hundred by the 1870s. With ongoing conservation efforts, there are currently 19 herds in 12 states across the American plains. No other wildlife species has had as much impact on humans and the ecosystems they occupied as bison. Bison are known to move around in response to changing environmental conditions, including drought and deep snows that can make it challenging to find food and water, as well as threats like hunting, predation, severe weather, and biting insects. In addition to movement, bison also exhibit other behaviors such as horning, which involves rubbing their horns on objects like trees and shrubs, and wallowing, where they roll in dry, loose ground or use their hooves to create wallows in which they can roll. These behaviors help bison avoid biting insects and display aggressive behaviors. Yellowstone National Park is home to bison that freely roam the area. Visitors should be aware that getting too close to these massive herbivores can cause injuries or even fatalities. Despite warnings and guidelines, some visitors underestimate bison's agility and speed approach them too closely for a photograph, or ignore safety precautions altogether. It is essential to be mindful of potential danger and respect the animal's space to avoid harm. According to the National Park Service, bison are responsible for injuring more people than any other animal in Yellowstone National Park. They're known for being unpredictable and can run 3 times faster than humans. Always maintain a safe distance of at least 25 yards when near bison. It is vital to give them space whether you're near a campsite, trail, boardwalk, parking area, or developed area. If necessary, you should turn around and avoid interaction with them. Approaching bison can be threatening and may cause them to bluff charge, bob their heads, paw the ground, bellow, or snort. These warning signs indicate you're too close and a charge may be imminent. If the animal follows you, use bear spray as you move away. Research shows that most bison attacks occur during June and July. In July 2023, a 47-year-old woman from Phoenix, Arizona, sustained significant injuries to her chest and abdomen when a bison gored her at Yellowstone National Park. According to the New York Times, the woman was walking with another person in front of a lodging on the north shore of Yellowstone Lake when they encountered 2 bison. The women turned to walk away, but the National Park Service said one of the bison charged. Also in July of 2023, another woman was seriously injured by bison while hiking at Theodore Roosevelt National Park, according to park officials. Park officials reported she was in serious but stable condition after suffering significant injuries to her abdomen and foot, according to CBS News. In June 2022, a bull bison gored a 34-year-old man after he moved too close, National Park Service officials said. Weeks earlier, a bison had flung a 25-year-old woman 10 feet into the air after she came within 10 feet of the animal. In 2019, a 9-year-old girl was sent airborne from a bison's headbutt that was captured on video and shared on social media. National Park Service officials said that the girl was part of a group that stood within 5 to 10 feet of the bison for at least 20 minutes.
Thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another great show here on Spaced Out Radio. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Among the Missing. From the missing to the mysterious, it's good to return of Courtney Marcassani on the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
All right, Courtney, it's been a while, and I told the audience, don't you worry, never fear. Courtney Marcassani will soon be here. And you have returned.
I'm back.
From Pennsylvania all the way to Alaska. Did you wave when you flew over? Did you wave?
Yes, I definitely waved. Are you kidding me? I had to give an old hey ho to Dave down there in Sasquatch land. And I actually had a sighting in Montana too. I uploaded the video to one of our groups. I don't know if I loaded up to our news group, but I did have a sighting in Montana. And it was definitely a bright light, and it hovered and it moved, and it was pretty phenomenal. So I took video of it.
Nice. Now,
yeah,
you had a very weird, strange encounter in Pennsylvania the same night my son, at the exact same time that my son had a strange happening at my house. So to break it down, on my end at 2:00 in the morning, which is 5 a.m. in Pennsylvania time, my son woke up, and we don't know if he was sleepwalking or wide awake, but there was something strange about it. And the weird part about it is, according to my partner, his iPad kept moving. Like she would place it in one place, next thing you know, it's in another place. And this happened a couple of times before she finally got him back to bed. Now, at that exact same time, what was happening with you?
Well, mine goes back. So mine started about 4 or 5 days before this happened with your son, but I had lights in the back of the woods behind my house, which is not the first time this happened, actually. It happened in the spring, in March and April. I think I told you about it. I can't remember, but I did have some lights over the woods behind the house. And I went out into the woods last spring. I didn't find anything, but then lights came over, hovered, and I knew it was very similar to the experience that I had in Oregon with my daughter. Very, very similar. But this past week, as I was preparing to leave the farm, the lights were down behind the woods. So they were very much like behind the house, very close. And I saw these 2 sets of round circular lights. They were amber at first. And I had gone out to dinner with a friend, and I'd just come home. And all of a sudden I see these lights. I let the dog out to go outside so he could do his potty. And I'm looking and I see 2 round lights, and they're like amber. And the first thing I think in my mind is like, oh, is that a reflection, or is that reflective? And I know darn well it's not reflective because there's no lights behind the house. I mean, it's acres and acres, just a pristine forest. There's nothing. And there's no reflectors or anything. So then I start to like go back and forth to see if the light moves, and it changes. It like changes from amber to red, And I'm just watching it, and I'm moving to see if it's going to move, and it's just staring straight at me. And I'm just sitting out there on the porch. And the dog is fine. He's not growling or anything, which also is strange. So I grip my phone and I go towards the woods, toward the stone wall where this light is showing up. And I put my phone camera light on it to see if I can see anything in there. And I can't. Now I do hear coyotes. They start howling, they start yipping, they start going crazy farther away. But then I just start seeing lights all over the woods. So it was very strange. I went to bed. The next morning, this is where your son is related to the story. I get up at 5 a.m. and I go out once again to let the dog out, and there are sticks laid all along the stone wall where the lights were. And I know those sticks weren't there before. And so I had pictures of them because I was like, this is so odd. Whoever was there in the woods last night, or that night, wanted me to see that they were there. And so it was really creepy. And then when I talked with you and your son was up at the same time, that was the same hour that I noticed the sticks were on the ground, stacked like a little trail, one behind another. And so then it just went on. I mean, that went on when I went through to Montana. I saw lights in the sky. It was like the activity was just super high. Unbelievable activity. So I documented everything. I called you. And then when you said your son had this instance at 5, it was the same exact time that I got up and saw the sticks. So it was bizarre.
Very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Very.
Did you put the sticks back?
I put the sticks back. Yeah. I mean, you could see where they took the sticks from because there was a pile of wood. We'd been doing wood all summer long, and there was a little pile of wood, and they took the top pieces off the pile, and they put them end to end to end. It was so weird. And then there's one big log that they put from perpendicular to the stone wall where the lights were, and then another smaller one. It's crazy. I'll have to send you the photos so that you can see. I documented it because it was so bizarre.
That is just truly, truly weird. Truly weird. And while you were gone, there was a lot of things happening in the UFO world, from the Schumer Rounds amendment getting tossed to, basically David Grush threatening that in the new year he's going to drop a number of bombs that are going to really, really push this subject into, what do we call it? What a catastrophic disclosure. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. Where do we even start? I mean, how do we get to this point?
Well, I have to say that I heard, now I didn't see David Grush get interviewed by Elizabeth Vargas on News Nation, but I did have people call me and ask me about it and give me feedback about it. And they said that she really took him to task and almost played skeptic, big time skeptic. And, asked a bunch of questions that were pretty rudimentary, about evidence. And I want to go back and watch it. I haven't had a chance to see it, but I've heard it was pretty controversial and that she treated him like he was not having high integrity. So I wondered what you had heard from that interview, or if you were able to watch it, because that's really that's quite incredible that she would treat him that way. But maybe she felt like she needed to be more balanced in the reporting versus Ross Coulthart. I don't know, but I think that's an interesting tack that she took at him.
Well, I don't disagree with the tactic as a journalist, because a lot of times what happens is these type of people, they get the fluff questions. And I'm not saying Ross Coulthart asked a bunch of fluff questions. I have a high amount of respect for Ross, and I think what a lot of people don't understand is you can ask tough questions without looking like an idiot or like a jerk. Okay. And I think Ross has that down pat, whereas a lot of people may take it as him asking a bunch of fluff questions. Okay. It's all in the matter of how you approach it and how you approach the interview. I've been accused of asking, when I've had Lou Elizondo on the show, of asking fluff questions, where I've asked him some very pointed, direct questions. And sometimes you have to massage those questions. Instead of getting in their face, pointing in the finger, you sometimes have to massage them and make them look a little bit fluffy in order to get a great answer.
Well,
I mean, it's an art.
I think that it's quite complex in terms of the timing, the preparation, the way that he was prepared, right, to go to the IG and do his complaint. And I could understand why that would come under suspicion, by a reporter, of the time that took, the lead time that he had, the decision for him to go and be a whistleblower, basically giving up his career, right, and his professional life in government service in order to be a whistleblower, because he figured he couldn't take this issue any further. And so the question then is being left, since the Disclosure Act got gutted, is what's left for him now? So I could understand his frustration, right, at the interview. I could understand why he lost his patience, which is what people have told me, that he looked like he was very impatient and upset during the interview. And I think that it's probably warranted. And I think we could all say he probably does feel frustrated, considering this was their plan, to get the Disclosure Act through and get it passed, and it was gutted. And so I could understand why he would be frustrated at this point, considering they thought that it was going to be a win. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't think that they were going to get it passed.
No, I don't think they do either. But I mean, I think it also comes down to the fact that, Courtney, and I brought this up with Rob G, who is filling in for you, and you and I talked about it on the phone as well. I think the Schumer Rounds amendment, not to bring up old hat again, but was more so about protecting American assets. They were more concerned about accidentally releasing American assets than it was about UFOs. And you and I have talked on this show about the difference between UAP and UFOs. If we're concentrating on UAP, there's a lot of American assets that fall into that category, assets that we may never see. Okay, give me an example. We have never, ever seen in public the black helicopters that went and took out Osama bin Laden. Yet
right.
We knew.
I heard that they got rid of those on site, that they actually destroyed those right after.
Yes.
Is that what you heard?
Yeah. I heard that too.
Because they didn't want the tech to be available. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you think that's what, $500 million in helicopters? Because once you stealth them up and you make their rotors silent, that's a lot of money. A lot of money to just.
I don't know if that story is true. It would be nice to find out, if we could get somebody to go on the record about that and find out that that is a true story, that they left all of those helicopters there and destroyed them on site in Pakistan.
No, the story that I got was that they actually brought them home, because they blew up the one after it crashed in bin Laden's compound. They had to blow it up, so that way they couldn't see the technology or find the technology that was in there. But number two, the remaining craft, which we do not know how many there were, Okay, we know that they were brought. I do know that they were brought home and basically put through a trash compactor and never to be seen again.
Wow. Well, it's interesting with Pakistan. I know this is a little bit off topic, but if you read Black Hawk Down, it's interesting because Pakistan were, allies of the US and helped a lot during that, incident with Mogadishu and everything. And to see what happened with Osama bin Laden and where our relationship with Pakistan has, ended up now in the present, it's just been demoralized and demolished. So it's just really interesting, that story and where that tech ended up and, where our relationship is with people around the world. And so it brings us back to your point, right, about UAPs and UFOs and our relationship with these other foreign countries and what tech we have, and that we don't really want to share anything about these UFO programs because it would give secret tech away, right, from the secret access programs to Russia or Korea or, North Korea or China. And so I do think that is a big part of it, but I don't think we know how much that plays. I do think UFOs are still part of the secrecy, don't you? Or you're saying that it's not?
Yeah. No, I'm saying
it's part of
I'm
it.
saying that the Schumer Rounds amendment was more about covering American assets than it was about UFOs.
Well, I heard it was controversial. I actually heard about your reporting and that it was quite a hot button issue, that people were really upset about the debate that you had about it being UFOs versus UAP. Did you hear feedback about that from other people?
No.
Excuse me.
I would love to hear this because nobody ever talks to me.
Well, I've been busy, doing all the family stuff and moving and whatever, but I have heard feedback, about the conversation and the dialogue about UFO and UAP. And it was interesting because it was mixed, because some people absolutely believe it's UAP technology that is that name, that moniker is being given to US tech, right? And the special programs and the Lockheed contracts and Raytheon and the rockets and all that. And that there's other people that say, no, they're the same thing. The UFO and UAP is this anomalous phenomenon. And so I do think it's good to go back and revisit those differences, the subtle differences, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of all those subtle differences and the things like the triangles and the TR3Bs and, the new concepts that are coming out, the next generation stuff that really do look like UFOs. I mean, it's phenomenal when you go and see the new Lockheed tech that they just dumped,
I happen to have a source that has worked in that world. Okay. And when I finally talked to my source about the Schumer amendment and everything like that, and I gave my explanation for UAPs versus UFOs, and it was like his giant hand slapped me across the phone line and said, "This is what I've been telling you for the last 9-10 months."
Okay, so you were validated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Schumer amendment really closed the door on that for me. But you see, the thing is with people, we love shiny new objects. Okay. And we love to, it's like when Tesla cars came out, everybody all of a sudden had to have a Tesla. All right. Then they got smoked on their trade-in values. All right. It's same thing with UAPs. Old school ufologists don't use UAP. They're still UFO people. It's this new brand of ufologists that is out there that has only followed this for the last couple of years that is fully entrenched in the UAP stigma.
Yeah, well, what I saw in Montana was a UFO. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that that's what it was. I mean, it moved. It didn't move like a planet. It moved slowly. It paced the car down the highway like it has done in the past, although this was very bright. And so I'm watching it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, is this really a UFO? I can't believe this, that I'm seeing this. And so I stopped 3 different places alongside the highway on Highway 90. And there it is.
Hold that story. We will return with Courtney Marcassani on the UFO Report here on Spaced Out Radio. It's good to have Courtney back, isn't it? It's always interesting discussion. We'll continue right after this on the Mighty SOR. Stay tuned. I didn't know you got feedback on that. You held that back from
I did. Yeah, no, I did. It was really interesting. I had a couple people call me actually and ask about what is Dave talking about? This was a specific question. What is he talking about with UAPs versus UFOs? And that was the first question. And then who is he talking to? Who is he talking to that's telling him that? And I said, I don't know who he's talking to, but yeah, the UAP UFO thing has come up a couple times in our discussions because we see the differences between them, and not everybody does. But I will say that a couple people have gone back to calling them UFOs now. I've been at a couple conferences and they've said, I'm going to defer and just call it a UFO. And I'm like, okay, so this is just happening. It's just happening in the community because people already know the difference and they don't want to call it UAPs anymore.
No, I think, and if we're being a leader on that, we're doing our job. We're doing our job.
There is a difference between the UFOs and the UAPs. And I think you're right that the government wants us to think that UAPs are UFOs. They want us to believe that they're the same thing, but they're not.
No. And like I said, I mean, the future projects that you and I will hopefully be working on here soon will really define that for you because it's very interesting.
Well, I have to say, when you're when you're seeing this stuff and it's astonishing, to your eyes and your mind's trying to figure out what it is and, name it or put it in some kind of box, right? You walk away from it and you know that you've had an experience. And that's why I've been thinking a lot about, the experiencer title, because that seems to have some longevity and some legs. And I'm going with that because I do think that people who have seen UFOs are experiencers, don't you? And that seems like a pretty good name.
Well, I think there's a difference though. Like there's one host out there who's really turned anti-ufology
Okay.
And I like this guy away from the microphone. I really like him. He's a good guy, but he's only seen one UFO, but he calls himself an experiencer. I don't see that. I see that as being an eyewitness. Now we're dealing apples and oranges and semantics and all this kind of stuff.
Oh no, it's not apples and oranges. No, it's not apples and oranges. Even in our own group that we were in a year ago together, there are all these experts in there, and there was so much contention about witnesses versus experiencers. And this is another thing that is like, it's confused like crazy in the community because people say, oh, I'm an experiencer, but they aren't real experiencers. They're witnesses. And so it's interesting. We should post that somewhere so people can see, because I wrote the dialogue between these two experts in the field, supposed experts, about witnesses versus experiencers. And they said that experiencers aren't real because a lot of what you and I have talked about this, a lot of what they're experiencing is being projected into their minds by the non-human intelligence. You and I have had a specific conversation about this person saying that, and you and I going, that's not accurate.
Yeah. I think I know.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that conversation? It was a while ago. I'm just refreshing your memory.
Oh, my. We got a lot of housekeeping to do, you and I. We're going to be like, we might have to start up a new podcast called The Broom Pushers. UFO Broom Pushers.
Well, I have one that I'm thinking of called The Signal Line. And so the signal line I really like too, because as experiencers, we're usually on the signal line, we pick up stuff. Mm-hmm. We're on the signal.
It's funny because with one of the projects that I'm working on right now, or I will be working on again, because we got to do some more work to it. I was talking to Samantha Moen about it the other day, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta take some people out into the forest here soon, or when the weather clears up. She's like, you want me to come? Like, yeah. I said, what do you think the chances of us getting something? She just, in her Samantha voice, Dave, you should know by now. Every time I go into the forest, they're there.
I like your Samantha voice. There's There's a little
Oh,
something extra. There's
you
a little
have to
something extra.
you have to hear her talk. She is just so matter of fact. Matter of fact.
Well, after you've had the experience, it's enough. I mean, this is me coming back from a long couple weeks of it, just continual sightings and interesting things and lights and sticks and whatever. You start to recognize that you are officially an experiencer, and it's not going to go away. So you just have confidence and know that something's going to happen. And she probably has had that experience enough that she's confident. She knows. She doesn't have to doubt it.
Here we go. 2 seconds. We continue on with the UFO report. Courtney Marchesani is here with us tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we bring back Courtney here, hanging out with us, talking UFOs on the UFO report. Courtney, thank you for being with us.
Hey, it's good to be back. It's nice to be talking about events and things. I know there's been so much that's happened. I do think it's good that you brought up the UAP UFO thing, though, because it sounds like it was a little bit contentious.
I wouldn't say it was contentious, but you know what? I do see, and I've talked to a number of people about this recently, and some are fighting me, some are telling me I'm dead wrong. All right, but you're right. There are a lot more people like Christopher Sharp from the Liberation Times who are now coming out and saying there is a difference. And the Schumer Amendment really proved that when it got waxed by people like Mike Turner. And they are flummoxed because here they've been using this UAP thing for so long. And now it really means that they've been talking about man-made objects the whole time.
Yeah, and look at the money, right? Look at where the money flows. I mean, we touched on this before too with Turner and the others, and you can just see that there's a direct track between, Raytheon and the rockets and permits for rocketing and the money that's going into that, and they don't want to jeopardize that. And with the Disclosure Act, it might have, had that gotten passed and some of the IRAD monies being discoverable, it would have put their projects into jeopardy and their campaign contributions. Let's not forget, they were getting huge campaign contributions from aerospace industries. And so it's sad that when you go back and look at it and then you look at the line items of how this money breaks out and you start to follow the money, how ridiculous it is. That's one of the things that I've said is like so ridiculous that this is all about money and their campaigns and staying elected. It's just patently ridiculous that was one of the biggest reasons why the Schumer Amendment was gutted. It just shows how corrupt, how deep the corruption goes. So that's, I think, the biggest deflation because, they really hoped to get it through and then to see that it's all about the money and the contractors. It's a shame. It's a real shame. We should be disgusted. We should be, as Americans, disgusted as an American public that we didn't get this passed. So I think a lot of people are disgusted. If you look at Twitter, people are just totally demoralized and disgusted and unhappy. And they're just hoping that 2024 is going to be like the big comeback. So we'll have to wait and see after the new year what the predictions bring. That'll be fun topics and fodder for us to predict what's going to happen with catastrophic disclosure if it does happen.
Well, we're going to see. I think the gloves are off. That's a safe term to say. But speaking of Americans, did you see this video of an alleged UFO that was filmed flying over top of Air Force One.
Oh, I heard about it. I haven't seen the video, but I've heard about it. I didn't know if it was real. I thought it might have just been fake news. Was it real?
No, there's a video of it, and Avi Loeb has from Harvard University has spoken on it. So apparently there was some sort of silver sphere that was flying a couple hundred feet above Air Force One. Now, there isn't a lot of information about this right now, but I mean, I find it interesting. Why all of a sudden would there be a UFO hovering above one of the most expensive aircraft in the world, number one, and the most secure aircraft in the world? But then again, my skeptical eyes kind of open up to this UAP thing, and no.
Maybe they're monitoring to make sure that Joe Biden's going to sign the NDAA for 2024, that he's going to pass the defense authorization budget. That's all they need, right? Is for Biden to sign it. Oh my God. I don't know. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I think that if that's real and it's a true account and there was, a light above, I mean, how would they even release that? I mean, that surprises me that would even have been leaked into the media, that the Air Force One would have something. I mean, because it would be vulnerable, right? They wouldn't want to admit that Air Force One is vulnerable. So how did that even get out?
No
That's
idea.
What I want to know.
But the interesting part about it is in saying UAP, Area 51 is not that far from LAX.
No, a stone's throw. You kidding?
Exactly. Maybe a 20-minute flight, if that.
Yeah.
And who's not saying that they were saying, hey, boss, check out one of our new toys?
Yeah, well, that was one of the big theories around the Nimitz, right? That it was a training mission, right? And they came up from the water, and then they appeared where they were supposed to reconvene, and they were just suddenly there, and then all the tapes were taken. And why wouldn't why wouldn't we have shot them down? Even if it was a training mission. So there was a lot of people that brought that up, that it was probably our tech that was being tested on a training mission. But I don't know, when you go back and you look at some of the really weird stuff, like the K. Randall May recording. Remember that recording that I posted in our group? That was Dr. Kit Green and K. Randall May. She was remote viewing Catalina Island, and she was talking about the base under the water. And so when you start piecing a lot of this together, and then UAPX is out there with their movie, Terror in the Sky, and they see things, it's like they went to Catalina Island for a reason, because it's been known for sightings. It's been known for, seeing UFOs there. So, I do think there's all this weird overlay over top. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to tease out, is like, what is the UFO and what is American tech, the UAP?
Absolutely. So
is this it? Is this the Air Force One video?
I don't know what's happening here. For some reason, every time I go to bring up a tab from Twitter, it shows. I don't know if that's going to show. There it is. Okay.
Wow. I see it.
And if you look, there's a screenshot of the UFO. You have the typical support jet fighter flying beside Air Force One. And then you have the UAP orb on the other side of the Air Force One. Very interesting.
So it was just a bystander. It was just a bystander down on the ground at LAX that took the photo?
Somebody took it. I don't know who took it.
That'll be interesting to follow up and see. I think I might follow up on that and see who it was who took the photo, just to check and see what else they saw. I bet they saw more. If they took the photo, they had to have seen it doing maneuvers above the plane.
Yeah, the big headline: Aliens tailing Biden.
Sign the NDAA. Sign the NDAA for 2024.
Oh my goodness. But that's
Well,
where we
I
are.
did read the language. I will say this. I did read the language. I don't know if I have caught up with you on news segments, but I did read the NDAA language that was updated from the committees. They had agreed in the committees to certain things to be added to the disclosure part of the NDAA. So I read all that. I read the part especially about anomalous health incidents, which was really interesting because they added in specific language for
Very
anomalous health incidences, countermeasures, identification, funding in case there's an anomalous health incidents for their staff and personnel. Very specific language was added.
okay. But nothing to do with UFOs.
It said anomalous phenomenon also includes energy directed weapons and other anomalous phenomena. So it is not all inclusive, but it includes possible UFO effects or effects from UFOs. But it includes specific words, like I said, the energy directed weapons. So Havana syndrome, other things, radiation, those are being built into the anomalous health incidents section on the NDAA. So that's good and important for people to know, keep track of.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mhm.
Courtney Marcusani is our guest tonight on the UFO Report. Hanging on out. Now, you were in New York for a conference there.
Yeah,
And
I was.
you didn't last very long.
No.
Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I went and had lunch with somebody, a very special person who's an experiencer and actually a really prominent person in the community, even though they don't put themselves out there in the public eye. But I had a nice long lunch and we discussed a bunch of issues essentially that experiencers have been having. And one of them was surveillance and also exploitation. And so it kind of falls in the civil rights part of all this about what happens to experiencers, the way they're tracked, the way their families are tracked, the way their phone calls are tracked. And I went to the Inquirer Anomalous and spoke to a couple other people, and they all said, yes, I've been tracked, or my emails have been tracked, my phone calls have been interrupted, my mail has been opened. And it wasn't just one or two people, it was multiple people. And so I found out some really disturbing stuff before I went to the Inquirer Anomalous, and I kind of decided that I didn't really want to sit the whole day out and sponsor some of the folks that were there talking because they were kind of involved in some of this nefarious stuff. So that's why I backed out of it. I didn't want to really be party to it or endorse it in any way.
Yeah, I'm gonna respect a lot of the names and everybody there, okay, because at times you do have to withhold. But when you say nefarious, what do you mean by that?
That experiencers have been used, for their stories, for their contact experiences, for their for their experiences. And they're usually typically vulnerable and they usually want to share their experiences. And so one of the things that I found out is that we're being used in this community for us to share our stories or be open or take risks and put ourselves out there. And that might not always be a good thing. Those things are basically being collected, the stories, the contact, the information, contact with NHI, that it's being absorbed and then being used in some way or another. And so I just didn't want to support that kind of behavior and exploitation of experiencers. I'm totally against that.
I can see that. I can appreciate and I can appreciate that. On one note, I did hear a rumor that I have not shared with you yet.
Oh, what's that?
I heard that there is a lot of internal infighting about the future of the ever honest Enigma Labs.
Oh, really? Oh my God, that's huge.
I have been hearing that from multiple sources that they are, and I don't know how this is happening, considering they got a ton of money from Peter Thiel, but apparently my sources have told me that they are having some financial concerns, that they are having a lot of internal bickering going on, that they're not getting things that they thought they would get, whether it's government contracts, even though they advertised they weren't about government contracts, whether it's about people and their reports coming in. I think that they thought that they naively thought that many people, researchers out there who have a plethora of information, drawerfuls and drawerfuls of research and information, would just gladly turn it over to them. And many people are saying, screw you, I don't want you touching my stuff. Okay.
No, and the reason why is because look what happened with MUFON. Look what happened with Bigelow Aerospace, and look at what happened with, OSAP and those programs where they came in and they wanted the files for MUFON. They brokered a deal and they got all that information about all those sightings, all those experiencers, their families, and they did a deal. And so some of these like backhanded deals have been going on for a long time, and people are leery about it. They don't want to be necessarily on the hot seat for taking information, because the thing that's really crazy about a lot of this, speaking of anomalous health incidents, is that you have experiencers who are having these incidences. They are telling their stories. They are reporting them. They're reporting their sightings. Then they possibly, get followed or followed up with and get more data. And some of that data is actually probably clinical data, about things that happen afterwards that are medically related. And so you kind of get into this slippery slope where it's not just sightings, right? You start to get into actual health effects that people have, which is more like patient health data. And so, we had a little Twitter thing that we did with women in the research field, and you wouldn't believe the stories that they were telling in a safe space about their own patient health data being accessed by the DOD, some of them. They went in to see their files, and their files had been accessed by the Department of Defense. And even the doctors were like, I have no idea why this has happened. I can't explain this to you. So, there's people that don't, want to be involved with those kind of handshaking deals. Not saying what's going on with Enigma, but it has been mentioned in association with Enigma, them wanting to get reporting and information about experiencers. And I don't know how deep it goes, but it has been mentioned. The Enigma is part of that data and record collections on experiencers.
Very much so. Very much so. And I think that, people in the UFO community, especially after the collapse of the To the Stars Academy, are a lot more wary about who to trust in the UFO world. And apparently part of the rumor that I heard about it was that there are still some very staunch people who don't want to go public with this, and they want Enigma Labs to continue to be a security type place for these files, but they don't want to give up who they're working for, what they're doing with the reports. They don't want to give up anything.
Look, even Jacques Vallée won't give up his database. At the Archives of the Impossible, he was like, I have these databases that I've done as a private effort, my whole life essentially, and, all my own time and energy. And he's like, these, researchers come and they ask for it. He's like, I can't give it to them in good conscience because they're not going to be looking for, the same information or the right stuff. And so that's kind of how he passed it off, or how he explained it, with database collection and data information, that all these records that have been collected. And I'm like, the same with Bass. That's bullshit. That's just bull. You have the data, you have the collections. So did Bass. How come Bass hasn't released and NIDS haven't released all the data that they have until now? We still haven't gotten it. And they had so much time, so many studies, and we still don't have all the data that they have collected and analyzed. We got the 99 Jerreds or whatever, but there's so much more. There's so much stuff that that hasn't been released. It's maddening. It's maddening.
Oh, totally maddening. Totally. And it's something that, we need to, as a field of people, we need to keep pointing that out. Enough with the secrets. All of a sudden it seems like everybody.
So Enigma's just going to probably fall prey to the same thing. And if they can't get their money, then they'll go, for lack of a better word, tits up. That's what we call it on the farm. If they don't get their money right, if they don't get their funding, they'll just be like the other programs that dissolve because they're not sustainable unless they have some kind of outcomes or outcome studies that they're producing that would warrant more money going into that, which it's been pretty secret as far as I understand. So where are they getting the funding in the first place? How are they funding it?
Well, we know who put it together. We know who funded the first effort.
Names have been mentioned.
Names have been mentioned, Peter Thiel. You know
who you are.
But on the flip side, it's amazing how, and I hope this changes in 2024, that the people who seem to be getting money handed to them hand over fist in the thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, or millions will finally come to the conclusion and understand that we're not looking at rudimentary technology here. We're looking at something that is potentially biological, that they have no clue on what they're understanding. And to me, they're a bunch of dogs barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so the compartmentalization is so deep. And, I know I've said this before, and I know people are going to be like, oh, she's beating the old drum, but sitting there in Palo Alto, first of all, where like SRI was started, and one of the first UFO research programs was started, in Stanford. I'm sitting there in the room with all these titans, and to hear Leslie Kean ask Hal Puthoff about this litmus test that they essentially did in 2004, asking these, contractors who were involved in SAPs to do this survey, and him saying that the government was never going to have a full disclosure because of the IRAD monies, because it was going to be so damaging. Now here in 2023, seeing this all play out, it's astonishing to see they're playing the long game, and we're just seeing, the first big drips of it. And so it's totally coordinated. It's totally coordinated by the government. And so their narrative, we have to watch the way it shapes up and what they want us to see and how they want us to see and hear it.
Courtney Marcassani, we're going to wrap it up right there on Spaced Out Radio. Merry Christmas, everybody. From all of us in SOR land, we love you, and we will see you again very, very soon. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. You know what's funny about my theme song? Sometimes I'll be like driving down the road, and all of a sudden it'll pop on my iPhone, and I will
it.
actually
I love the theme song.
The intro and extro to the show. At the beginning, I'll read my intro. That's how much I've got it memorized.
Yeah, you do. I think you do have it memorized. You definitely have. You definitely have a structure that you go off of. I really like that you know it so well, in and out.
It's taking a bit. Sometimes I
Yeah,
forget.
I bet. It's good to be back. It was good to be back on the show tonight. Good to give some breakdowns of things. I didn't know if I would talk about, what I learned, which, I kind of had suspected some of this stuff was going on, experiencers being used essentially. And once I finally heard it and got confirmation of it, it really gave me a bad feeling.
Oh yeah. I can totally see that. I can totally see what you're talking about there.
Yeah, you need to be really careful about the people, who you associate with, and who you support and who you sponsor and who you give your street cred to. So, it's one of the things I really want to be careful about moving forward.
I've moved forward many a times, and I've had to pull back many a times, because just when you think you know people and you built up that trust and respect, you only learn that trust and respect was shown one way.
Yeah, and you got to be careful. Yep, you got to be really careful about who you trust. It's a good reminder.
Oh yeah. I don't think it happens as much to women as it does to men in this field.
What?
No.
Are you kidding? What doesn't happen? What doesn't happen as much?
The backstabbing and the distrust.
Oh, there's a lot of backbiting within the women community too. Yeah, there is. I mean, maybe not as much. I don't know. I don't know if it's as much between men or women, but it definitely happens with women a lot, from what I've been hearing. It's really disappointing.
I'm not saying it's not happening. I guess what I'm saying is that it doesn't seem as ruthless and callous and people going out to destroy people. Unless it's like Anjali or somebody like that.
From what I've heard, it's pretty bad. Definitely out to destroy and ruin people. But it's Christmas, so we can move on to other topics. We'll put a pin in that for another time. We don't need to go dark right now.
No.
So somebody said they want us to sing a Christmas carol. What Christmas carol do you know, Dave? Do you know a Christmas carol?
Who wants us to sing?
Somebody asked us to sing a Christmas carol. I saw it in the notes. It's past now, but Silent Night.
That was Neil Warden.
Holy night. All is calm. All is bright. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad.
I'll tell you. My cousin.
There you go. There's a little carol for you, a little caroling.
My cousin Dean we used to bug each other about being fat all the time, right? Even though we at this point in our 20s we weren't fat, but we were strong in our different ways. So we'd always make up songs. So I started around Christmas time saying, "Feliz Dean is fat. Feliz Dean is fat. Feliz Dean is fat. He never sees a taco. He wouldn't eat that."
I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Wish you a Merry Christmas. Oh, God. Oh, we used to make up some songs when we were young too, but I can't sing them because they're profane, and you'll have to go back with your censor. With your censor.
I already did. The last 3 minutes you dropped 2 swears.
Yeah, I got fired up a little bit. It's been a good stint for me here, and I've had a long journey. I'm at the end of a very long journey. I'm kind of punchy. I'm a little punchy.
Have you even slept yet?
I have. Yeah, I have slept. Yeah, well, we didn't have any power like I told you the last couple nights. So what is there to do besides sleep? You know, when you got no computer, no phone. So yeah, I did get sleep. Thank goodness. Otherwise, I would be a lot worse.
Or something like that.
I'll tell you, it's really different coming on at 10 at night than it is at 2 on the East Coast. It's a very different experience coming on.
You feel better?
Yeah, it's awesome. I really like it. I like it being earlier. I'll be better earlier. Not that I was dopey or anything, but you know, being up that late tends to affect you.
Yeah.
I did it for you, Dave. I did it for the SOR community.
I know.
I'm part of it. I had to sacrifice.
I will say this. I did feel bad. I totally did feel bad.
Oh no, you shouldn't feel bad. It was worth it. I mean, you know, I was just doing, you know, family stuff. So it was nice to have that as something to do. It was fun.
And you got some aliens.
I gotta send you the photos of the sticks. I'll do that. I'll send you the photos of the sticks. I've sent it to family now so they could see, and they're all just like, that's weird. I sent it to my one friend in Montana, and she's like, that is creepy. She's not even in our culture or in our community. And she was like, I think that's something else. I think that's non-human. I was like, well, if it is human, it's concerning. It's menacing to, you know, to think that something's out there. My other friend, who I had come up and walk the grounds with me after the first night of Weird Lights, she was like, well, unless it's somebody with a thermal camera out there looking inside your house to see how many people are in there. I'm like, oh, thanks. Thanks. That makes me feel really safe that they're casing the house.
That's real comforting, friend.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So she's like, just get a gun, lock the doors, put a pistol beside your bed, which of course I did. Yeah, nothing happened. But your son woke up at 5. I thought that was very unusual when I got up at 5 the same exact time.
Yep, but that's how it works. My son is
but you know, you wouldn't know that unless you're communicating about it. So that was what was really interesting, that we communicated about it and that it had just happened.
Oh yeah.
Well, and like I said, it went on through the trip, and there was lights over the place in Montana, and I posted about that. I mean, it was like a level of high activity. You know, you hear how people go through levels of high activity. That's what it was. It was like a week and a half worth of activity.
Now, hold on. I need to take your bullshit and tips up out.
I won't say any more about it. I've been busy, you know, doing all the family stuff and moving and whatever, but I have heard feedback, you know, about the conversation and the dialogue about UFO and UAP. And it was interesting because it was mixed, because some people absolutely believe it's UAP technology, that is, that name, that moniker is being given to US tech, right? And the special programs and the Lockheed contracts and Raytheon and the rockets and all that. And that there's other people that say, no, they're the same thing. The UFO and UAP is this anomalous phenomenon. And so I do think it's good to go back and revisit those differences, the subtle differences, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of all those subtle differences and the things like the triangles and the TR3Bs and, you know, the new concepts that are coming out, the next generation stuff that really do look like UFOs. I mean, it's phenomenal when you go and see the new Lockheed tech that they just dumped.
Yeah. I happen to have a source. I happen to have as and everything. The Schumer amendment really closed the door on that for me. You know, all right. It's same thing with UAP.
There's no doubt in my mind.
That has only followed.
What I saw in Montana was a UFO. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that that's what it was. I mean, it moved. It didn't move like a planet. It moved slowly.
Gosh. Sorry, that was a waste of time.
I got to send you that. I got to send you the videos that I took of the UFO.
Real DJ Fruit Loops, how you doing? Welcome. Dave didn't even flinch. I don't understand.
Maybe when I was cursing, you didn't flinch. I don't know. We were talking about swearing. There's a little bit of talk about cow pies.
My son tried to get me in trouble with his hockey coach because he's like, my dad always wants me to go out there and hit people. And his hockey coach looks at me, really? I'm like, hey, that's a good Canadian kid we're brewing here. So
it's legal, isn't it? It's legal. It's legal to hit people in hockey, isn't it?
Not at his
age.
Not
at his age. That's controversial that he says that.
It is.
He's trying to get you in trouble. They're like, yeah, it's the guy in the Santa hat. He's the one.
Yeah. Santa hat guy trying to get me in
Santa,
trouble.
Come here. Talk to Coach.
All right. So 30, that starts at 35, 45, 55. So that was it. Was that at 53, I think?
Kind of how he passed it off, or how he explained it with database collection and data information, that all these records that have been collected. And I'm like, the same with Bass. That's bullshit. Explained it with database collection and data information, that all these records that have been collected. And I'm like, the same with Bass. That's bullshit. Or how he explained it with bullshit. Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to make more work for you.
Oh, that's all right. I like tracking down bullshit.
Potty mouth. Bass, that's bullshit. That's just bull. You have the data, you have the collections. So did Bass. How come Bass hasn't released and NIDS haven't released all the data that they have until now?
That does upset me. They have so much information,
so much time, so many studies, and we still don't have all the data that they have collected and analyzed. We got what, the 99 Jerreds or whatever,
As a field of people, we need to keep pointing that out. Enough with the secrets. All of a sudden it seems
secret, as far as I understand. So where are they getting the funding in the first place? How are they funding it?
Well, we know who put it together. We know who funded the first effort.
Names have been mentioned.
Names have been mentioned, Peter Thiel. You know
who you are.
But on the flip side, it's amazing how I'm gonna let that one slide. I'm gonna let the tits up slide. Hell with it. I got the one.
My bad.
All that matters. I'm too tired. I don't care. You make me laugh.
I get fired up about things.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm so that person that was supposed to call me, that Canadian person who was supposed to call me tonight, didn't call me back. I'm going to try and get a hold of him tomorrow and have that conversation with him.
Well, that would be interesting to track that down. I'm going to try to see after this if I can track down who got the Air Force One video and see if I can talk to the witness who saw it. That would be interesting, wouldn't it, to see what they saw?
Oh, yeah.
Before they took the photo. That's got to be traceable.
Everything's traceable. Everything's traceable. Courtney, I will call you tomorrow.
All right, Dave. Bye, everyone. I'm glad to be back.
And I'm going to say goodnight to our beautiful audience as well. And Merry Christmas, everybody. I don't do happy holidays. I'm a Merry Christmas guy. So if that offends you, that's just too bad. And I really appreciate all the love tonight from everybody who hit subscribe, to Pam H., Louie, and Amy, and Human Carl, T-Bone, and la Bright. Okay. Thank you for the love and support, everybody. And we're going to be off on the live show on Christmas Day and the following day, which we call Boxing Day here in Canada. And I'll be back on Wednesday, the 27th. And everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. Be loved. And we'll talk to you soon. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.